Taboo topics.
Voyagings after dark.
Riveting discussions.
Celebrity news and interviews.
Topics that are shunned by society.
And everything else in between.
Voyagings After Dark with Kareem Voyagings each and every Wednesday, 8 to 11 p.m.
Voyagings After Dark.
No topic is too taboo or hard to discuss. Come get your mind blown and your curiosity explored.
Voyagings After Dark.
Ready to tackle that building project? Start right. Start here at H&L Rapid True Value for building supplies. The time by H&L Rapid True Value is
nationwide time 5 o'clock.
Learn about smart betting strategies with AnyBet. Bet wisely, enjoy responsibly, and maximize your success. The temperature by AnyBet is...
It's 31 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 29 in Montego Bay.
News at 5 teasers are brought to you by Advanced Scales and Equipment. Service is our total commitment.
From the Nationwide News Network, comprehensive, incisive, tough. This is Nationwide at 5.
Good afternoon, I'm Roby Ann Williams.
And I'm Mahiri Stewart.
In Nationwide News at this hour, Education Minister says she's shocked at the timing of the opposition's complaints about the Jamaica Teaching Council bill.
The issues that were raised yesterday were not raised in that debate. And it opens a lot of questions. And for me, you wonder, how can this be?
She says the PNP was given ample time to review the bill before it was debated in the Senate.
But the opposition is rejecting what it says are the minister's misleading statements.
The illicit trade of goods costs the country roughly $20 billion annually.
JFJ is dismissing suggestions that some supporters were paid to participate in the End Police Violence protest in Halfway Tree yesterday.
In news from the rest of the world, outgoing Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Stuart Young, resigns as chairman of the PNM.
US ready to sign minerals deal with Ukraine.
In headline sports, Barcelona comes from behind twice to earn a 3-3 draw with Inter Milan in the first leg of their Champions League semi-final.
And later in our broadcast, in our cover story at 5:35, Sissoko has charged an elderly farmer with 3 counts of rape in connection with allegations of sexual assault of a girl 45 years ago. DPP Paula Llewellyn will discuss.
In public opinion at 6:26, we ask, what is your reaction to the mandatory minimum sentence of 50 years for capital murder? Give us your comments by logging on to our Facebook page, Nationwide News Network, and by tweeting us at Nationwide Radio, and message us on WhatsApp at 876-285-5693. You can also leave your comments on Instagram at Nationwide90FM.
In the nation's business at 6:40, Parliament passed a number of amendments to the Offences Against the Person Bill, the Criminal Justice Administration Bill, and the Child Care and Protection Amendment Bill on Tuesday. Attorney Bert Samuels will weigh in on the new proposed penalties for murder.
At 7, U.S. President Donald Trump has celebrated the 100th day of his second term in office with a campaign-style speech touting his achievements and targeting political foes. We'll bring you excerpts of his speech.
And at 8, it's Boyatings After Dark with Kareem Boyatings Weathers. All these and more as we take you home on air on your mobile, Nationwide 90 FM, NationwideRadioJM.com, and on the Nationwide app available on Google Play and the App Store. This Wednesday afternoon, it's Wednesday, April 30, 2025.
News at 5 teasers were brought to you by Advanced Scales and Equipment. Service is our total commitment.
If it's news, it's got to be Nationwide 90 FM.
Now to the details. Education Minister Senator Dr. Dana Morris Dixon says the opposition failed to raise the concerns it's now expressing about the Jamaica Teaching Council JTC bill when the legislation was being debated in the Senate. The JTC bill was passed in the Senate last Friday with bipartisan support. It had 38 amendments. But just days later, opposition Senator Damian Crawford, who supported the bill, led a press conference where he and 8 other PNP PNP members outlined problems they had with its contents. Mahiri Stewart has that story.
Dr. Dana Morris Dixon says the contents of the long-awaited Jamaica Teaching Council JTC bill are the result of numerous bipartisan Joint Select Committee meetings. She notes that she gave the opposition ample time to review the bill before it was debated in the Senate.
All 45 Joint Select Committee meetings were televised, and we had opposition and government there. The bill that was presented in the Senate was actually just a bill that came from that Joint Select process. So everything in there would have been discussed in the Joint Select process. I tabled the bill in the Senate, and I waited 1 month to have the debate on it. On the day that I was to do the debate, the opposition said they were still not ready, and they asked for 2 more weeks. And I said, okay.
The Education Minister was reacting to the comments made by the PNP at a media briefing on Tuesday. 9 PNP members, led by spokesman on education, Senator Damian Crawford, outlined a raft of concerns they had with the contents of the bill. Their concerns include the fines for unlicensed teaching, a lack of definition of key terms used in the bill, and measures, he says, restrict teachers from teaching multiple subjects. But Minister Morris Dixon says she's shocked at the timing of the PNP complaints, which came just days after the bill was passed in the Senate with support from the opposition.
The issues that were raised yesterday were not raised in that debate. And it opens a lot of questions. And for me, someone who is not a politician, a career politician who's come into this, you wonder, how can this be? How can you have a debate on Friday after having the bill being laid for 6 weeks, after 2 years of 45 different Joint Select Committee meetings between opposition and government? How can you then have 4 days later a press conference saying, oh, I now have issues and these are my issues? And so there's a real governance question. Are we doing the work we're supposed to be doing? Are we as attentive to our Joint Select Committees? Are we reading the bills?
Addressing the issue of registration of teachers, the PNP believes there should be a 6-month grace period for renewing these licenses. But the Education Minister says the bill clearly states that there's a 2-year-long moratorium for teacher registration.
Teachers have 2 years before they need to be registered. The bill also does not speak to a cost of registration. The bill says that the minister may, or the council may, determine what the registration fee is. And I've already determined that that would be minimal or zero. All of the rules for implementation, it says it must be determined with consultation with stakeholders. So even what the licensing regime would need to be agreed by stakeholders.
Mahiri Stewart for Nationwide News.
Meanwhile, the opposition says it categorically rejects what it says are misleading and inaccurate statements made by the Minister of Education regarding the handling of the Jamaica Teaching Council JTC bill in the Senate. Khalesia Wright has that story.
In a statement Wednesday afternoon, spokesman on education, Senator Damian Crawford, says on the day the government intended to open and close the debate on the bill, approximately 35 amendments were circulated to senators on that very day. When challenged, it was indicated that an email containing the amendments was sent at 5:35 p.m. the evening prior, offering senators no reasonable opportunity to review the changes. Senator Crawford says the very intention to debate and close such a significant and far-reaching bill the day after circulating 35 amendments and with no meaningful time for review betrays the seriousness the government claims to attach to this legislation. He also rubbished claims that the opposition was given 2 weeks to review the JTC bill before the Senate debate. He says the very next sitting of the Senate following the Easter holiday was used to debate the bill. Senator Crawford also took issue with the minister's claim that the concerns raised by the opposition were not raised during the debate in the Senate. He labeled the claim false, adding that every concern the PNP raised publicly was also raised during his presentation in the Senate on April 25. Furthermore, Senator Crawford says the minister's claims of broad consensus based on consultation are an intentional misrepresentation. He says an institution of no less significance than the Jamaica Teachers Association, JTA, along with other stakeholders, has repeatedly proposed reasonable amendments and raised critical concerns, many of which have been ignored by the government in the final bill. Senator Crawford says the minister also miscategorized the opposition's position on the moratorium. He says the opposition did not question the moratorium, but instead suggested that reasonable extensions be granted in cases of hardship during the license renewal process. Khaleesi Wright for Nationwide News.
Human rights lobby group Jamaicans for Justice JFJ is dismissing suggestions that some supporters were paid to participate in the End Police Violence protest in Halfway Tree St. Andrew on Tuesday. This follows a video obtained by Nationwide News showing some Jamaicans clad in black standing in a line beside a JFJ branded vehicle. It shows some of them approaching the vehicle, signing a piece of paper on a clipboard, and then leaving with what appears to be cash. The 3-minute video ended after a fellow supporter asked the person to stop the recording as it was a sensitive matter. Nationwide News played the video during Cliff Hughes Online on Wednesday. But JFJ Executive Director Mikel Jackson sought to clarify that the cash disbursement was a travel stipend for those who could not afford to attend the protest without support.
Any non-profit organization that serves vulnerable communities, as long as you're inviting persons who are sometimes unemployed or underemployed or simply can't afford it, you will reimburse them a small travel stipend. So I want to assure persons who watch that video, we reject any notion that the organization was doing anything untoward.
Our news center also received a screenshot of what appears to be the registration invite to Tuesday's protest. It included the date, time, and location, as well as the registration link. It also indicated a stipend of $1,500. Ms. Jackson explains that the link was only sent to the vulnerable group.
The clients that we serve, they are often from low-income communities who sometimes cannot afford to go to court. So, for example, if you have a matter in the court, if you have been invited to a training session, meals will be provided to you, and based on your location, you will get a travel stipend. Those clients within our family support group, which will consist of people who lost their loved ones to police violence, we also have a support group of survivors of domestic and gender-based violence. Those individuals were the individuals to whom we sent a link to say, based on your affordability, the organization would be able to provide a travel stipend of 1,000 Jamaican dollars to $1,500.
Mikel Jackson, Executive Director of JFJ.
Children convicted of murder will face a minimum of 15 years in prison. This is one of the amendments in the Child Care and Protection Amendment Bill passed in the House of Representatives on Tuesday. Justice Minister Delroy Chuck piloted the bill in the House. Shaloy Smichael reports.
The Child Care and Protection Amendment Bill is one of 3 major crime bills passed in the House of Representatives on Tuesday. The bill had proposed the sentencing of no less than 20 years before becoming eligible for parole for any child convicted for the offense of murder. But Justice Minister Delroy Chuck says following robust discussions at the committee stage, the proposed position is now more nuanced. The bill is now proposing that a convicted minor will be eligible for parole after serving 15 years.
In respect of capital murder, where the offender clearly has shown not only malicious intent, but shown a wickedness that he should spend at least 15 years in custody. And so the sentence for capital murder should be life imprisonment, or if a determinate sentence is considered appropriate by the judge, 30 years. But in either cases, the offender must serve 15 years. This is reduced from 20 years that we had agreed at the Joint Select Committee, and I asked the Parliament to approve the reduction of minimum mandatory from 20 to 15 years.
On the flip side, the court will have the latitude to determine the years that must be served before a minor becomes eligible for parole in non-capital murder cases.
In the case of non-capital murder, it can either be life imprisonment, but we are saying because it's a young offender and the circumstances are so varied, not the wicked, egregious, malicious behavior of the offender, but a young offender that the court for non-capital murder can impose a determinate sentence to be decided by the judge. And the judge at the same time can also say what period of time must be served before that offender can be released. In other words, we leave it to the court in the respect of young offenders 14 to 17.
Minister Chuck says too often more consideration is given to child offenders and not the victims and their families. He says this was the predominant argument of many of the groups who contributed to the bill at the committee stage. But the minister argues that the amendments are not about vengeance, but recognizing that punishment for murder must serve as a clear and unequivocal signal that the sanctity of life is paramount. He further notes that those who take life unlawfully must face serious consequences, even children.
It wouldn't be correct, Madam Speaker, for this Parliament dealing with young offenders, 14 to 17, that the victim's family who go to court or who hears of the sentence of the offender say, but wait, he just got a pat on his wrist. As far as we are concerned, Madam Speaker, this Parliament must reflect the intolerance, the repugnance, and the feeling that the victim and the families of the victim possess when they have lost a loved one. And that sentence must be reflected in the sentence that we guide the courts with when an offender has been found guilty of capital or non-capital murder.
Shaloy Smichael for Nationwide News.
You're listening to Nationwide News at 5 more news after these.
Celebrate 26 years with IQ Optical. Enjoy 26% off your prescription eyewear and sunglasses this month only. Book your appointment or take your prescription to IQ Optical in New Kingston, Manor Park, or Drexel. Conditions apply. The time by IQ Optical is
16 minutes after 5.
Rentokil Initial offers air purification solutions with triple filtration and unique auto-sensing capabilities that neutralizes malodor and replaces it with clean air. Call Rentokil Initial at 926-4236 for more details.
The temperature by Rentokil is...
It's 31 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 29 in Montego Bay.
Taxi drivers, are you ready to earn more? Join Amber on Time and keep 100% of your fares in the first month. No commission, no catch. Plus, in your second month, we'll install a free vehicle tracker to help keep you and your car safe. Stolen vehicle recovery and panic button response are also on us. And guess what? On May 3rd and 4th, come to 13 Haining Road. Snacks and drinks are on us. Come link up, ask questions, sign up on the spot, and level up with Amber on Time, Jamaica's taxi app built just for you.
Continuing the news, National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang says the illicit trade of goods costs the country roughly $20 billion annually. The minister says chief among the concerns for the government is illegal firearms.
In recent years, the evolution of this threat has picked up speed, and economic impact is severe. It is said that illicit trade costs us about $10 billion annually in lost tax revenue. That's only revenue. The cost of illicit trade, as it finances the criminal networks, cannot be calculated in simple dollars and cents. That's an additional $10 billion, of course, which coming from the goods that come into the country legally, but are legal goods, cigarette, liquor, and so that could in fact be collected and put in the treasury to assist us with our infrastructure, our healthcare, our education, and all the other community activity required.
Dr. Chang was speaking at the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce, JCC, first anti-illicit trade forum on Wednesday. Illicit trade refers to the illegal production, distribution, or trafficking of goods and services, often involving activities like counterfeiting, smuggling, and drug trafficking. While often overlooked as a criminal activity, Dr. Chang says illicit trade has evolved over time to become a highly sophisticated transnational crime. Dr. Chang says the government is investing heavily in the country's border protection and customs apparatus to disrupt this activity.
Law enforcement agencies have identified these policies patterns as part of an emerging trade-based money laundering activity typology in Jamaica. These actors use trade to convert criminal profits into seemingly legitimate earnings, blurring the lines between legal commerce and organized crime. It is for this reason that Jamaica's ongoing national risk assessment by the security teams, analysts, include a dedicated focus on trade-based money laundering to identify, quantify, and mitigate our exposure to trade-based laundering. This, of course, it damages the legitimate business. It outcompetes, not the corruption is maybe one aspect, but it legitimizes illicit money, and that puts the legitimate companies at significant risk, as well as, in fact, put the country's financial system at risk.
Dr. Horace Chang, Minister of National Security.
World in a Minute is brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose Assembly and Supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
The World in a Minute.
Outgoing Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago Stuart Young has resigned as chairman of the People's National Movement, PNM. Young has held the position since December 2020. His resignation was disclosed in a letter on Wednesday addressed to the party's General Secretary, Foster Cummings. It comes 2 days after Young and the PNM sank to a major defeat in the 2025 general elections. The United National Congress, UNC, won 26 seats to the PNM 13, and another party took 2 Tobago seats. Political analysts have pointed to internal division and voter fatigue as contributing factors to PNM's loss. Young says after deep personal reflection, culminating with the result of the general elections, he was quitting. He asked that Cummings convey his thanks to the membership through the PNM's General Council. The council will meet to decide who will be the party's opposition leader in Parliament.
The Trump administration says it's ready to sign a deal with Ukraine that would give the U.S. access to its valuable rare minerals. The announcement was made on Wednesday by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Ukraine says it's also ready to sign the agreement in the hopes of receiving continued American support for Kyiv in its war with Russia. The initial agreement was due to be signed in February. At the time, President Trump described the deal as reimbursement for the billions of dollars in aid the U.S. has given to Kyiv. However, it fell apart following a heated exchange between Trump and his Ukrainian counterpart, Volodymyr Zelensky. The U.S. is seeking access to more than 20 raw materials deemed critical to its interests, including oil and natural gas. Among them are Ukraine's deposits of titanium, used for making aircraft wings and other aerospace manufacturing. Ukraine also has lithium and graphite, which are used in electric vehicle batteries.
World in a Minute was brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose Assembly and Supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
Recapping the top stories making nationwide news at this hour, Education Minister says she's shocked at the timing of the opposition's complaints about the Jamaica Teaching Council bill.
She says the PNP was given ample time to review the bill before it was debated in the Senate.
But the opposition is rejecting what it says are the minister's misleading statements.
JFJ dismisses suggestions that some supporters were paid to participate in the End Police Violence protest in Halfway Tree yesterday.
I'm Roby Ann Williams.
And I'm Mahiri Stewart.
You can find the news on our website at nationwideradiojm.com and on the Nationwide app available on Google Play and the App Store. News next, the headlines at 6.
As we grow older, there are many challenges that we have to confront, but these years can represent the best in our lives. Coming of Age during Nationwide This Morning on Thursdays explores issues persons 50 and over confront. It also provides expert opinions on how we can improve the quality of our lives as we get older. That's Coming of Age, this and every Thursday during Nationwide This Morning at 6:51 a.m.
Do you have a consumer-related issue? Want to learn more about matters concerning you as a consumer? Well, keep it locked to Nationwide 90 FM for the Consumer Hour with me, Nora Gay Banton, weekdays from 9 to 10 a.m. For all your consumer-centric matters, stay tuned to the Consumer Hour on Nationwide 90 FM, a revolution in media.
Sports at 5 is brought to you by Total Tools. They almost always have it.
Good afternoon with your sports report. I'm Alex Baby. We bore things off with some cricket as Jamaica Titans suffered their second defeat of the Cricket West Indies Breakout T20 League, going down by 6 wickets to Trinidad and Tobago Legions at Brian Lara Stadium on Wednesday. Batting first, the Titans made 127 for 8 off their 20 overs. Zion Brathwaite made 37 and Leroy Logg 30. Joan Lane, McKenny Clark and Navin Bidassi took 2 wickets each. In reply, the Legions made 130 for 4 inside 19 overs. Camila Puran made 45, Captain Joshua De Silva 31 and Bidassi 29 not out. Chennai Super Kings' chances of reaching the Indian Premier League playoffs are over after they were beaten by Punjab Kings despite Sam Curran's 88. England all-rounder Curran's highest IPL score was the backbone of CSK's 190 all-out, but Punjab chased their target with 2 balls to spare, even with a late stutter, winning by 4 wickets. Final score: Chennai Super Kings 190, Punjab Kings 194 for 6. Now to footballers. Barcelona Inter Milan drew 3-3 and will go into the second leg of their Champions League semi-final on level terms after the Catalan side came from behind twice in Spain on Wednesday. Inter came out flying with Marcos Thuram scoring in the opening minute and Denzel Dumfries doubling their lead 20 minutes later to silence Barcelona fans. But it wasn't long before Hansel Flickler's men roared back with 2 goals to draw level before half-time. Chances were limited after the break before Dumfries headed in his second goal. But like they did in the first half, Barcelona responded well to adversity, scoring a minute later after Rafinha shot ricocheted off Yam Sommer and into the internet for an own goal.
Oh, what a flick! What a start! It's Marcus Thuram after 30 seconds. It's a quite outstanding finish. The celebrations from the Inter supporters. It's a dream start for them. And there's a chance, it's a second goal. And this time it's Denzel Dumfries with another brilliant finish. And Barcelona find themselves 2 down at home after 20 minutes. Headed down by Rafinha, equaliser. Ferran Torres. It's another good ball in, it's another header, it's another goal. And it's another one for Denzel Dumfries, who's having the night of his life. Pulled back here to Liamal, who lets it run. Oh, that's a great goal! It's Rafinha with an absolute bullet! The Inter Milan lead is gone in the blink of an eye!
Inter thought they had snatched the win with less than 20 minutes remaining, but the goal was called back for an offside violation. The 2 teams will meet again in Milan on May 6. Manchester City striker Erling Haaland has returned to full training following an ankle injury. The Norwegian suffered the injury in the 2-1 FA Cup quarter-final win over Bournemouth on March 30. Haaland has been working on an individual training program during his recovery, but was back with the first team group on Wednesday. He has scored 39 goals for club and country this season, and although it is not known when he will return to action, boss Pep Guardiola is expected to address the situation when he faces the media on Thursday before Friday's Premier League game against Wolves. Meanwhile, 28-year-old midfielder Rodri has also been training with the first team, having been out since September with a serious knee injury. The 24-year-old Ballon d'Or winner has not featured since last year after suffering a ruptured ACL in September. And finally, in athletics, the InSport All-Ireland Primary School Athletics Championships returned to the local track and field landscape with its 43rd staging. Over 6,000 athletes from more than 130 schools are expected to participate in the event from May 5 to 31. The championships will unfold in 4 stages. First, the Central Championships at GC Foster College starting on May 5. This will be followed by Western Championships at Stets from May 8 to 10, Eastern Championships at Stadium East from May 14 to 16, and the grand finale will take place at the National Stadium from May 29 to 31. Noghead Primary are the Central and National champions. I'm Alric Swaby, that's your sports.
Sports at 5 was brought to you by Total Tools. They almost always have it.
New KFC saucy wings. Attention all wings lovers. KFC saucy wings with 2 new flavors. Mango habanero and buffalo. Spicy. KFC we have delicious. Spicy the best. So a new KFC saucy wings crush the rest. Nobody does wings like KFC. New saucy wings is for me.
New KFC saucy wings, delicious, hot and spicy wings tossed in savory mango habanero or buffalo sauce. Wings that will crunch the rest. New KFC saucy wings, it's finger licking good.
The kitchen isn't just a room. It's where life happens, where meals are made, stories are shared, and memories take shape. At Active Home Center, we help you design a kitchen that works for you. Stylish cabinets, top quality appliances, stunning countertops, sleek faucets, sinks, and cabinet pulls. Everything in one place. Sit with our experienced kitchen experts and bring your dream kitchen to life. Your dream kitchen starts here. Visit us in Kingston at 84 Constant Spring Road. Active Home Center. More savings, more choices.
The future is here. Meet your new best friend, the Samsung Galaxy S25. Unlock your true potential with this powerful but sleek AI companion. The S25 has exciting features such as the enhanced AI and camera. Let's transform the future together. Ask about our trade-in, smart payment, and insurance protection plans. Get yours today at select digital stores, Crossroads, Tropical Plaza, Spanish Town, downtown, and also available at the SMS store, 12 Ruthven Road, Kingston 10. SMS Group is your gateway to technology.
New KFC saucy wings. Attention all wings lovers. KFC saucy wings with 2 new flavors. Mango habanero and buffalo. Spicy. KFC we have delicious. Spicy the best. So a new KFC saucy wings crush the rest. Nobody does wings like KFC. New saucy wings is for me.
New KFC saucy wings, delicious, hot and spicy wings tossed in savory mango habanero or buffalo sauce. Wings that will crunch the rest. New KFC saucy wings, it's finger licking good.
Taboo topics,
Voyagings after dark,
riveting discussions,
celebrity news and interviews,
topics that are shunned by society,
and everything else in between.
Voyagings After Dark with Kareem Voyagings each and every Wednesday, 8 to 11 p.m.
Voyagings After Dark.
No topic is too taboo or hard to discuss. Come get your mind blown and your curiosity explored.
Voyagings After Dark.
Hi there. Here's some good news for these trying times. Quote, "By God's word, I can see where I'm going. They throw a beam of light on my dark path." Unquote. Psalm 119, verse 105. Listen for God's Word weekdays at 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. through
Oasis. Stop by for a refreshing drink and share a God perspective for the day.
Oasis, weekdays 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. right here on Nationwide, a revolution in media.
The rebroadcast of the Oasis can be heard weekdays at 5:45 a.m.
Public opinions.
Stop this foolish about this JLP and PMP business. We are a Jamaican.
Different people.
It's not a matter of a JLP or a PMP. I think it's more like where it is that you think you're comfortable, what support you can afford to make the country better.
Different views.
Most entertainers, they're not amenable to management, so the only thing that can ultimately structure them is the court and the prison.
Public opinion. The voice of the people at 6:25 p.m. weekdays during Nationwide at 5. Tune into Nationwide at 6:25 p.m. for Public Opinion, where the people's views matter.
Public Opinion is brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Cover Story is brought to you by Hyundai. Modern, premium, affordable vehicles.
Experience the joy of buying a brand new Hyundai without breaking the bank. Yes, buying a brand new car should never leave you broke. From stylish designs and safety features to comfortable driving and reliability, Hyundai is the choice. Hyundai vehicles come standard with 2 years free service and 5 years warranty and roadside assistance for your peace of mind. Drive 2 years without service cost and 5 years without fear of being stranded. Hyundai. Conditions apply.
Good afternoon, ladies, gentlemen. It is 5:35 and it's time for the cover story. I'm Siobhan Campbell.
And my name is Sanjay Lewis. Good afternoon to you, Siobhan, and good afternoon to our listeners. And this afternoon, we are looking at a 45-year-old sexual abuse case. And that's because the Center for Investigation of Sexual Offenses and Child Abuse, SOCA, has charged an elderly farmer with 3 counts of rape in connection with allegations of sexual assault of a girl 45 years ago. Charged is 75-year-old farmer Frederick Watson of Trinity District, and that's in Porus in Manchester. The incident occurred in Retirement District, St. Elizabeth, between 1980 and 1982.
Reports are that Watson and the female were living at the same address where he sexually assaulted her on several occasions. It's not known how old the female was at the time of the alleged assaults. However, the police say she reported the matter in January 2025. An investigation was then launched. Watson was taken into custody on Monday, April 2.
He was charged following a question and answer session in the presence of his attorney. Joining us to discuss further is the Director of Public Prosecutions, the DPP, Paula Llewellyn. Good afternoon, DPP.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Good afternoon, dear listeners.
And thank you for joining us. This case, DPP, involves allegations dating back more than 4 decades. From a prosecutorial standpoint, what are some of the challenges involved in pursuing such a historic case? And some individuals listening will ask, why even pursue such a case?
Well, first of all, since the matter is going before the court, you know that I cannot discuss anything about the merits of this particular case.
Understood.
Yes. I was invited to perhaps shed some light on the principles.
Yes.
In matters of this nature. Now, these type of cases where you have allegations of sexual conduct of the accused in respect of the virtual complainant, which amounted to allegations of a possible breach of the criminal statute, are what we call historical sexual abuse matters.
Yes.
And it's a special species of case which you don't really, see very often, but I know we have successfully prosecuted several of these cases in Jamaica, as well as we have had acquittals in several of these cases. Now, the consternation, I suppose, on the part of some members of the public is understandable, but I would hasten to add that the issues arising in whether these cases breach the constitutional rights, I think it's section 16(1) of the Constitution that deals with the whole issue of fair trial and trial within a reasonable time, whether the whole impact of a delay in any way breaches the constitutional rights. Those issues of law were in detail litigated in a case called Patrick Chung in the Judicial Review Court. Now, the court has to balance the public interest in having persons charged with serious crimes prosecuted, even where there is significant delay, against where you may have possible prejudice that may give rise to a serious risk of an unfair trial. So there are two competing interests, public interest issues. Now, the historical sexual abuse cases occur usually where the complainant or the virtual complainant may have been a child or a teenager, and the accused would have been somebody who was in an authority position, or a guardian, or a neighbor, or a member of the household, or the yard, or the community. And that person usually would have been an adult and in that position of trust or authority over the child or teenager. So there is no statute of limitations which would cause the court to grant, for example, an automatic stay, or to say because of the long time that has elapsed between when the incident is alleged to have occurred and when the report is made, there's no law that says automatically there is a statute of limitations.
Madam DPP.
So at the end of the day,
I hate to interrupt you. Madam DPP, I hate to interrupt you. I genuinely hate to interrupt you because what you're saying is very important. But there seems to be a slight problem with your line, so we're going to take an early break and see if we can sort it out and come right back to you.
All right. Okay.
Don't fall victim to deepfakes.
Watch out.
Protect yourself.
How is the
For more
TV?
information, visit broadcastingcommission.org or
Here ya,
scan
baby.
the QR code on screen.
Deepfake. No deepfake can't catch me.
Junior, you know say AI can make something will look and sound just like you? One day Junior get a voice note from her granny. Say the food done, the medication done, and she need money urgently.
Need money urgently? But Miss Pat no like ask people for things.
And as so comes, Judy get suspicious.
So what she do?
She asks the neighbor to go check pan her. Junior, the lady quite alright over there make her Sunday dinner.
So the voice note a deepfake?
Yes, my love. Come, your food ready.
Right now it look like we have to outsmart the AI. But wait, I really want dege dumpling here, give me.
Me I wonder if AI can make one deep fake dumpling for you.
To learn more about deepfakes, visit www.broadcastingcommission.org.
New KFC saucy wings. Attention all wings lovers. KFC saucy wings with 2 new flavors. Saucy wings. Mango habanero and buffalo. Hot, spicy. KFC we have saucy wings. Delicious, spicy, the best. So a new KFC saucy wings crush the rest. Nobody does wings like KFC. New saucy wings is for me.
New KFC Saucy Wings. Delicious, hot, and spicy wings tossed in savory mango habanero or buffalo sauce. Wings that will crunch the rest. New KFC Saucy Wings. It's finger licking good.
Answer's Mother's Day sale up to 70% off. Up to 70% off the best brands for mom. Answer's Gifts at Home, Tropical Plaza, and Answer's for Children, Tropical Plaza and Sovereign Center. Answer's Mother's Day sale till May 17, 2025. The nationwide 90 FM Schoolyard Tour 2025 is taking the vibes island-wide, straight to your schoolyard. Tune in to the E-Zone from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. on May 2 as we broadcast from Dindhill Technical High School in Linstead. It's all about empowering minds and igniting the fun. Expect live entertainment, games, and big surprises as we bring the nationwide 90 FM energy to every stop. And you know we are going to stream it live
live on our YouTube channel at Nationwide 90 FM Live 2. So tune in to the E-Zone May 2 from 1 to 4 p.m. It's the Schoolyard Tour at Dint Hill Technical High School. Catch the live stream on Nationwide's YouTube channel at Nationwide 90 FM Live 2. Keep your station locked to Nationwide 90 FM for more details. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. The Schoolyard Tour is brought to you by the Students' Loan Bureau, KFC, Tip Friendly Society, National Council on Drug Abuse, and ATL Automotive.
I'm Dennis Brooks.
I'm Marlon Campbell.
I'm Floyd Green.
And I'm Garth Williams. Catch us on the Jamaican Dads podcast right here on Nationwide 90 FM, Thursdays at 8 p.m. with a repeat on Sundays at 6 p.m.
The Jamaican Dads podcast is all about providing men with a healthy, safe, and functional forum to tackle many of the taboo topics that concern our masculinity.
Like everyone else out there, we're dads of varying amounts of experience who come from different backgrounds and often view the world differently.
We're definitely not perfect, but we're all brethren and we're all committed to this piece of rock called Jamaica.
Too often, there are no safe spaces for men to explore the issues which are important to us.
Plus, most of the content out there about parenthood is produced by women, for women. So we think it is important that we be the change we want to see.
Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Jamaican Dads with a Z.
And definitely join us here on Nationwide 90 FM every Thursday at 8 p.m. with a repeat on Sundays at 6 p.m. for the Jamaican Dads podcast. It's a revolution in media.
The Temperature brought to you by Bird Shack Fried Chicken.
Burrata! Buy a 3-piece hat-trick meal and get an extra piece free for a limited time only is...
It's 31 degrees Celsius here in the capital city, Kingston, and 29 out west in Montego Bay.
Welcome back to the cover story right here on Nationwide at 5. And we're speaking with the country's DPP, and we learned that Sissoko has charged an elderly farmer with 3 counts of rape in connection with allegations of sexual assault of a girl 45 years ago. And of course, we're not discussing this particular matter as it is sub judice. However, we want to understand the principle and how the court will maneuver this. And just before the break, DPP, I just wanted to expound on a point that you made, because given the length of time in matters such as this, how does the judicial system approach issues of evidence, memory, credibility in cases like these?
Well, first of all, as I did indicate, there's no statute of limitations. This type of case, more than any other, will rivet the judge's mind and the jury on the whole issue of credibility. So you find in cases of this nature, the virtual complainant will indicate through her narrative, and she will be cross-examined. But usually, a central issue will be the circumstances as she saw it in respect of why, at the material time of the incident, she did not report the matter then. So at the end of the day, it's a matter of credibility. It will be for the jury to observe her demeanor, hear what she said, the way that she said it, and to look at the evidence in its totality to decide her reliability, the cogency of her evidence, and whether they are satisfied, so that if they feel sure that the ingredients of the offense have been made out in respect of what she has to say.
And Madam DPP, in terms of the time which has passed in any matter, so to speak, how much of an impact is that on the potential to receive a favorable outcome?
Well, I was saying earlier, and perhaps the connectivity, you might have been having a difficulty because I'm off the island at the moment on a professional engagement elsewhere in the Caribbean, and yet you're all able to find me. But the thing is that delay is a very critical component that the courts frown on when one looks at it in the context of the assessment of the whole concept of fairness that is essential in a criminal trial. Those issues in respect of the delay and the competing public interests. The public interest in having persons charged with serious crimes prosecuted vis-a-vis the whole issue where you have a significant delay, possibly risking being a serious risk to causing prejudice and an unfair trial to an accused. Those issues were, in great detail looked at in a case called Patrick Chung. That was a similar case. I think the lapse of time there, he was the father of the virtual complainant. That was an incest scenario. I mean, it's a reported case, so I can talk about it. And in that case, there was a majority. It was a three-judge panel, and by 2-1 a majority, the court there ruled that although Mr. Chung was infirm, a couple of his witnesses were no longer around, they had died, that when they looked at the whole issue of whether the delay there caused such a serious risk that the trial would have been rendered unfair, they did not find that sufficient basis there to grant a stay. So it all depends on the particular circumstances of the particular case. But the issues have been canvassed at a high judicial level, and all of the concerns that maybe some members of the public may have, one way or the other, whether for the complainant or for the accused, were canvassed in that particular case.
Interesting.
So, yes. But this is a 45-year gap. Well, this is another case, so we just have to wait and see what happens with the matter.
But certainly, DPP, matters of this nature must be difficult now for your office to handle, given the delayed reports that you will have to now go and get, and looking just generally on gathering the necessary material that you need to go to court. Isn't that difficult for your office to handle?
Well, these cases create a challenge. As I said, we have prosecuted cases of this nature before. I don't think the lapse of time was so great, but I do know we have prosecuted cases where the lapse of time is over 20 years, over 30 years. I think the first cases I was DPP that we did like that was a case in St. Mary, and it was the stepfather of the complainant, and I think the lapse of time might have been about 30 odd years, and he was convicted. And I also know of another one where the accused threw in the towel and he pleaded guilty. But I also, in the same Patrick Chung matter, that lapse was about 27 years, and that was incest. And the court ordered that it go back to the trialist as soon as possible. And it was a very robust defense that was mounted, robust prosecution within the usual ethical parameters. And the jury found the accused, he was 70-odd years old, and the allegations were, it's a matter of public record, so I can speak about it. I think he started, according to the allegation, the evidence was that it was from when he was about, when his daughter was a child. But it was very unfortunate. It's a very unfortunate scenario, but it's a matter of public record, and there the jury, I can tell you, acquitted. So credibility is the issue, which is the believability, the reliability, the cogency of the evidence. And it will all depend on the view that the jury takes of the credibility of the virtual complainant. So, as prosecutors, once we have an evidential basis and within the ethical parameters that we operate, our duty, once the evidentiary basis is there, is to put up what we have and, put up the best case that we have. But at the end of the day, we do not decide guilt or innocence. But it's either for the judge, in a judge alone matter, or the jury.
To what extent, though, DPP, the length of time in terms of good behavior, so to speak, of the person of interest or the person in the case, to what extent does being on good behavior, not having a criminal record, play on the court handing down a particular sentence if the person is found guilty?
Well, that would always form one of the mitigating factors. And that is why in any sentencing scenario, a court is obliged, and usually does, ask for an antecedent report on the accused from the police and a social inquiry report from the community. That is usually done by the probation officer or the officer responsible for gathering these reports. And then you may have character witnesses, and the attorney will also make an impassioned plea in mitigation. On the other side, the prosecutor may address the court in terms of looking at similar cases and advancing this to the court to indicate the range and what perhaps the public interest and the guidelines would point to. And this is why, we have advocacy in the criminal courts. We have an adversarial situation as between the prosecution and the defense. But at the end of the day, sentencing is usually deemed solely the judge's purview, and most judges will admit to you that it is really the most difficult part of any trial process.
In the few minutes that we have left to us, Madam DPP, I want to ask you to weigh in on this matter of concerns about police accountability. I know you work very close as the prosecutor with the police, so there's some sensitivities there, but at the end of the day, your office is the one that's called upon to essentially prosecute matters that involve police overstepping their authority, so to speak, in terms of fatal shootings and that matter of accountability. Do you feel there is a gap in terms of the information provided as, say, a case file when it's brought to you when such matters come around?
Gentlemen, I always like to talk about the difference between a court of law and a court of public opinion.
Precisely.
We do not have the luxury that persons who operated the public space, whether you are a non-governmental organization or an agency, to, use passion or emotion to assess a file. INDECOM usually sends files to us. So does the Bureau, the IPROB.
Yes.
And we use objective criteria, the law, to decide whether there is a reasonable prospect of conviction in the matter. We use objective standards to decide whether the ingredients of the offense are made out in respect of the evidentiary material. It's either you have a case or you don't have a case. It's either you can mount a case within the context of well-worn, used, and known prosecutorial standards. And these are quite high. The threshold to prove a case against anyone, whether it's a police officer or any other member of the public, is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And if you don't have sufficient material to come up to that standard, no amount of emotion can plug that gap. So I never get caught up. I understand concerns that persons will have on all sides. But at the end of the day, it's all about what the material reveals. And I have been privileged in my many years to have prosecuted great cases of complexity, cases involving police officers who have been accused of crime and other police officers have done splendid jobs in collating the material and assisting us in terms of putting it before the court. And we have had convictions. I've also seen other cases where we have had acquittals. At the end of the day, it is a matter for the tribunal of fact, the jury, or the judge. But it is not helpful, and case law says that not because you may wish, or anybody may wish, to assuage the emotions or the passions of a segment of the public, then one should shut one's eyes. And for the sake of statistics, you just simply say, okay, put that police officer before the court. You have to have evidence to put anyone before the court, because at the end of the day, all the case law dealing with the delay, case law dealing with fairness says at the end of the day, the overriding objective for fairness in any criminal trial, it is fairness, and fairness. We try to be very, very careful. In fact, I can say I did note before I left the island that there were concerns about what is happening with the prosecution of environmental breaches. I can say here that I have, after extensive inquiry, and we have in fact taken over all the cases that NEPA had, that I will be next week publishing a detailed press release indicating what were our findings at the office of the DPP in respect of that matter, that NEPA, that no evidence was offered in, and in fact bringing the country up to date in respect of other matters that we have proceeded immediately to take charge of. What were our findings and what we believe would be the way forward. So I'll be publishing that press release next week. But as it relates to police accountability, you know the age-old adage. Whether you're a police officer or any other member of the public, you can only fatally shoot someone when you are defending yourself or you're defending somebody else. So I don't indulge in the speculation. I don't indulge in hyperbole. I don't indulge in passion and emotion as a factor in making an objective assessment. It's all about the law, the circumstances of the particular case, and, the evidential sufficiency of the particular case.
Understood. Director of Public Prosecutions, Paula Llewellyn. Thank you so much for joining us, Madam Llewellyn. As usual, it's a pleasure. I just wish we had more time. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
All the best.
Headlines are next, listeners. Thank you for joining us.
Cover Story was brought to you by Hyundai. Modern, premium, affordable vehicles.
The time brought to you by Guardian Life. Live secure, live easy is
2 minutes after 6.
Nationwide headlines at 6.
Good evening with the headlines at 6. I'm Shalois Michael. Education Minister Dr. Dana Morris Dixon says the opposition failed to raise the concerns it's now expressing about the Jamaica Teaching Council JTC bill when the legislation was being debated in the Senate. Dr. Dixon says she gave the opposition ample time to review the bill before it was debated.
All 45 Joint Select Committee meetings were televised, and we had opposition and government there. The bill that was presented in the Senate was actually just a bill that came from that Joint Select process. So everything in there would have been discussed in the Joint Select process. I tabled the bill in the Senate, and I waited 1 month to have the debate on it. On the day that I was to do the debate, the opposition said they were still not ready and they asked for 2 more weeks. And I said, okay.
The JTC bill was passed in the Senate last Friday with bipartisan support. But just days later, opposition Senator Damian Crawford, who supported the bill, led a press conference where he and 8 other PNP members outlined the problems they had with its contents. Minister Maurice Dixon says she is shocked at the timing of the PNP complaints.
The issues that were raised yesterday were not raised in that debate. And it opens a lot of questions. And for me, someone who is not a politician, a career politician who's come into this, you wonder, how can this be? How can you have a debate on Friday after having the bill being laid for 6 weeks, after 2 years of 45 different joint select committee meetings between opposition and government? How can you then have 4 days later a press conference saying, oh, I now have issues and these are my issues? And so there's a real governance question. Are we doing the work we're supposed to be doing? Are we as attentive to our joint select committees? Are we reading the bills?
Dr. Dana Morris Dixon, Minister of Education. Meanwhile, the opposition has categorically rejected what it says are misleading and inaccurate statements made by the Education Minister regarding the handling of the JTC bill in the Senate. In a statement on Wednesday, spokesman on education, Senator Damian Crawford, says on the day the government intended to open and close the debate on the bill, approximately 35 amendments were circulated to senators on that very day. He also rubbished claims that the opposition was given 2 weeks to review the JTC bill before the Senate debate. Senator Crawford also took issue with the minister's claim that the concerns raised by the opposition were not raised during the debate in the Senate. He labeled the claims as false, adding that every concern the PNP raised publicly was also raised during his presentation in the Senate on April 25. National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang says the illicit trade of goods costs the country roughly $20 billion annually.
In recent years, the evolution of this threat has picked up speed, and economic impact is severe. It is said that illicit trade costs us about $10 billion annually in lost tax revenue. And that's only revenue. The cost of illicit trade, as it finances the criminal networks, cannot be calculated in simple dollars and cents. That's an additional $10 billion, of course, which coming from the goods that come into the country legally, but are legal goods, cigarette, liquor, and so that could in fact be collected and put in the treasury to assist us with our infrastructure, our healthcare, our education, and all the other community activity required.
Illicit trade refers to the illegal production, distribution, or trafficking of goods and services, often involving activities like counterfeiting, smuggling, and drug trafficking. While often overlooked as a criminal activity, Dr. Chang says illicit trade has evolved over time to become a highly sophisticated transnational crime.
Law enforcement agencies have identified these policies patterns as part of an emerging trade-based money laundering activity typology in Jamaica. These actors use trade to convert criminal profits into seemingly legitimate earnings, blurring the lines between legal commerce and organized crime. It is for this reason that Jamaica's ongoing national risk assessment by the security teams, analysts, include a dedicated focus on trade-based money laundering to identify, quantify, and mitigate our exposure to trade-based laundering. This, of course, it damages the legitimate business. It outcompetes, not what the corruption is maybe one aspect, but it legitimizes illicit money, and that puts the legitimate companies at significant risk, as well as, in fact, put the country's financial system at risk.
Dr. Horace Chang, Minister of National Security. Human rights lobby group Jamaicans for Justice, JFJ, is dismissing suggestions that some supporters were paid to participate in the End Police Violence protest in Halfway Tree St. Andrew on Tuesday. This follows a video obtained by Nationwide News showing some Jamaicans clad in black standing in line beside a JFJ-branded vehicle. It showed some of them approaching the vehicle, signing a piece of paper on a clipboard, and then leaving with what appears to be cash. JFJ Executive Director Michael Jackson sought to clarify that the cash disbursement was a travel stipend for those who could not afford to attend the protest without support.
any non-profit organization that serves vulnerable communities. As long as you're inviting persons who are sometimes unemployed or underemployed or simply can't afford it, you will reimburse them a small travel stipend. So I want to assure persons who watch that video, we reject any notion that the organization was doing anything untoward.
Our news center also received a screenshot of what appears to be the registration invite to Tuesday's protest. It included the date, time, and the location, as well as the registration link. It also indicated a stipend of $1,500. Ms. Jackson explains that the link was only sent to the vulnerable groups.
The clients that we serve, they are often from low-income communities who sometimes cannot afford to go to court. So, for example, if you have a matter in the court, if you have been invited to a training session, meals will be provided to you, and based on your location, you will get a travel stipend. Those clients within our family support group, which will consist of people who lost their loved ones to police violence, we also have a support group of survivors of domestic and gender-based violence. Those individuals were the individuals to whom we sent a link to say, based on your affordability, the organization would be able to provide a travel stipend of 1,000 Jamaican dollars to $1,500.
Michaela Jackson, Executive Director of JFJ. Those were the headlines at 6. I'm Shaloy Smikle. Sports is next.
Enough power tool, big to small. Jackama figure dig the wall.
Our Total Tools.
Weed waka figure trim the lawn. We have everything a job demand.
Total Tools.
We rent them, sell them and fix them. Also give Total Tools a call. When I say home improvement, landscape construction, a Total Tools are your option. Home improvement, landscape construction, Total Tools are your option. Total Tools located at 102 Main Street, Ocho Rios, 34 Slive Road, Kingston, and Lot C6 Jackson, St. Anne's Bay. Call us today.
Celebrate Mom with the Jamaica Observer's For Moms Mother's Day promotion. Win big for Mom with a $50,000 cash prize, appliances, gift certificates, movie passes, and more. Just spend $6,000 or more with your multi-link card. Grab the Daily Observer, complete the entry form, and submit it with your receipt. 4 lucky moms will win. Enter by May 16th and make this Mother's Day unforgettable. See the Jamaica Observer for more details. Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming, and Lotteries Act.
At Kia, driving your future means joining the movement that inspires. Whether it's the small but mighty Picanto hatchback or the top-of-the-line tech-rich Sorrento SUV, there's a Kia that perfectly fits your lifestyle and your budget. ATL Automotive has gotten Jamaicans behind the wheels of thousands of Kias for the past 7 years. And we're ready to get you behind the wheel of a Kia too. Simply visit the nearest Kia showroom for a test drive now.
Good evening with your sports report. I am Alex Swaby. We bowl things off with some cricket as Jamaica Titans suffered their second defeat of the Cricket West Indies Breakout T20 League, going down by 6 wickets to Trinidad and Tobago Legions at Brian Lara Stadium on Wednesday. Batting first, the Titans made 127 for 8 off their 20 overs. Zion Brathwaite made 37 and Leroy Locke 30. Joan Lane, McKenny Clark and Navin Bidasi took 2 wickets each. In reply, the Legions made 130 for 4 inside 19 overs. Camille Puran made 45, Captain Joshua De Silva 31 and Bidasi 29 not out. Chennai Super Kings' chances of reaching the Indian Premier League playoffs are over after they were beaten by Punjab Kings despite Sam Curran's 88. England all-rounder Curran's highest IPL score was the backbone of CSK's 190 all-out, but Punjab chased their target with 2 balls to spare, even with a late stutter, winning by 4 wickets. Final scores: Chennai Super Kings 190, Punjab Kings 194 for 6. Now to footballers, Barcelona and Inter Milan drew 3-3 and will go into the second leg of their Champions League semi-final on level terms after the Catalan side came from behind twice in Spain on Wednesday. Inter came out flying with Marcos Thuram scoring in the opening minute and Denzel Dumfries doubling their lead 20 minutes later to silence Barcelona fans. But it wasn't long before Hansel Flick's men rode back with 2 goals to draw level before half-time. Chances were limited after the break before Dumfries headed in his second goal. But like they did in the first half, Barcelona responded well to adversity, scoring a minute later after Rafinha's shot ricochet off Jan Sommer and into the internet for an own goal.
Oh, what a flick! What a start! It's Marcus Thuram after 30 seconds. It's a quite outstanding finish. The celebrations from the Inter supporters. It's a dream start for them. And there's a chance, it's a second goal. And this time it's Denzel Dumfries with another brilliant finish. And Barcelona find themselves 2 down at home after 20 minutes. Headed down by Rafinha, equaliser. Ferran Torres. It's another good ball in, it's another header, it's another goal. And it's another one for Denzel Dumfries, who's having the night of his life. Pulled back here to Liamal, who lets it run. Oh, that's a great goal! It's Rafinha with an absolute bullet! The Inter Milan lead is gone in the blink of an eye.
Inter thought they had snatched the win with less than 20 minutes remaining, but the goal was called back for an offside violation. The two teams will meet again in Milan on May 6. Manchester City striker Erling Haaland has returned to full training following an ankle injury. The Norwegian suffered the injury in the 2-1 FA Cup quarter-final win over Bournemouth on March 30. Haaland has been working on an individual training program during his recovery, but was back with the first team group on Wednesday. He has scored 39 goals for club and country this season, and although it is not known when he will return to action, boss Pep Guardiola is expected to address the situation when he faces the media on Thursday before Friday's Premier League game against Wolves. Meanwhile, 28-year-old midfielder Rodri has also been training with the first team, having been out since September with a serious knee injury. The 2024 Ballon d'Or winner has not featured since last year after suffering a ruptured ACL. In track and field, as the InSport All-Ireland Primary School Athletics Championships returns to the local track and field landscape with its 43rd staging. Over 6,000 athletes from more than 130 schools are expected to participate in the event from May 5 to 31. The championships will unfold in 4 stages. First, the Central Championships at GC Foster College starting on May 5. This will be followed by Western Championships at Stets from May 8 to 10, Eastern Championships at Stadium East from May 14 to 16, and the grand finale will take place at the National Stadium from May 29 to 31. Nuggerhead Primary are the Central and National champions. 643 swimmers from 39 schools are entered to compete in the YMCA Burger King Prep and Primary School swim meet at the Stadium Pool on Friday. Schools from across the island will be competing for the Sarah Newland Martin Championship Trophy, named in honor of the late General Secretary of the Kingston YMCA. Newland Martin was the driving force behind the transforming this competition from a small local event into one of the largest 12 and under competition in the Caribbean. The defending overall champions are Hillel Preparatory, while the defending primary school champions are Excelsior Primary. The YMCA Burger King Swim Meet has provided the foundation for outstanding Jamaican swimmers who have gone on to represent Jamaica at the major global competitions, including the World Championships and the Olympics. These include Nathaniel Hunter, Zanita Alvarenga, Sabrina Lynn, Emily MacDonald, Timothy Winter, Nelson Denny, and Leanna Wainwright. This year's competition will be keenly contested, with several swimmers on Jamaica's national development and junior squads competing, including multiple medal winners from the recently concluded Caribbean Championships. The meet is unique as, in addition to keen competition, there will be entertainment with vibes. The Burger King Vibes Trophy will be awarded to the school which displays the best team spirit and sportsmanship throughout the competition. The winning school will earn $60,000. The Queen's School registered identical victories over Immaculate and Merle Grove in the Issa Schoolgirl basketball competition on Tuesday. Queens beat Immaculate 35-10 with Kiora Goff leading the scoring with 10 points. The Central Avenue-based school later returned to beat Merle Grove 35-10. This time, Donnae Brown with 14 points was the leading scorer. Coach of Queens Donald Bimmer says a class with external exam forced the organizers to be creative in order to complete the schedule.
The timeline, due to a number of factors, mainly weather, the games that have been pushed back or have to be rescheduled is now going in towards exam. Exam starting the 1st of May. Hence, the organizers have to find an amicable way to complete the season and still allow the students to get their external exams done.
Donald Bimmer. Meanwhile, St. Andrew High beat Stats 15-11, Camperdown whipped Arden 13-32, and Holy Childhood got by Wolmer's 14-8. World number 1 Yannick Sinner considered walking away from tennis during his doping case, stating he didn't feel comfortable as players looked at him differently during the Australian Open. The 23-year-old Italian returned 2 positive tests for banned substance in March 2024 and accepted a 3-month ban from the World Anti-Doping Agency in February, just weeks after successfully defending his crown in Melbourne. Sinner had previously been cleared of any wrongdoing by an independent panel, but WADA launched an appeal to the Court of Arbitration for Sports seeking a ban of up to 2 years. However, he reached a settlement with the Anti-Doping Agency for a shorter sanction and is expected to make his comeback at the Italian Open in Rome after his ban expires on May 5. Ward acknowledged Sinner did not gain any competitive advantage from the banned substance and that he bore no fault for an accidental contamination. And finally, in pickleball, as Pickle and Chill, Jamaica's premier destination for pickleball enthusiasts, recently announced their expansion into the wellness space, setting a new benchmark for holistic player care in the region. This development highlights Pickle and Chill's dedication to fostering top-tier pickleball play and the overall well-being of its vibrant community. As the first facility in the Caribbean to seamlessly integrate wellness services with pickleball, Pick and Chill is redefining the sporting experience. Members and guests will also benefit from expert-led programs designed to boost performance, speed up recovery, and promote long-term health. The initiative will see collaboration with leading wellness professionals, ensuring its offering are grounded in cutting-edge recovery science and best practices. The expansion comes amid rapid growth for Pickle and Chill following international representation at the Pickleball Cayman Caribbean Championships 2025 and the APP Florida Tournament. Plans are already underway for continued global participation in 2025. I'm Alric Swiby, and that's your sports.
For all your scales and food processing equipment, call Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited at 876-968-9612-5. The time by Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited is
6:22.
Experience togetherness this Easter, embarking on a one-of-a-kind adults-only retreat in a world where swaying palms meet endless sunsets. All-inclusive indulgence awaits here at Hideaway at Royalton Blue Waters. Tap into an all-in luxury vacation experience when you book between April 1 to 30. Contact us. Dial 876-632-7401. That's 876-632-7401. Speak to your local sales agent today.
Plug into the sun with Peak Energy Solutions. We are your affordable provider for everything solar. Grid tie or off-grid solar P systems, solar air conditioners, panels, lithium batteries, solar supplies, and installation. Visit us at Shop 1, 3 Mosquito Valley Road, Red Hills, St. Andrew. Call 876-279-8820 or 944-0668. Or email us at peakenergysolutionsja@gmail.com. Peak Energy for everything solar.
Every day, we use our feet to walk, run, and take us to amazing places. But your feet can do something even more amazing. A simple step can change a life. Join Guardian Group's Shine 5K Night Run, formerly the Keep It Alive 5K, and make us try to support the Noel Holmes Hospital, the Bustamante Hospital for Children, and Project Star. Saturday, May 10 in Kingston and Saturday, May 24 in Montego Bay. New name, but same epic vibe. Register today at run2shineja.com or runningeventsja.com and see you at Shine 2025.
Public Opinion is brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Good evening, and welcome to Public Opinion. I'm Robian Williams. It's midweek. Yeah? Almost weekend. All right, no, it too fast. A special good evening to our friends over on our YouTube platform. Thank you so much for tuning in. We invite you to weigh in live in the comment section on today's Public Opinion. And I believe that this has to do with everybody. It affects or impacts members of the public. So we would really and truly like to hear from you. So Parliament on Tuesday passed a number of key amendments to 3 key crime bills. Yeah, those are the Offences Against the Person Bill, the Criminal Justice Administration Bill, and the Child Care and Protection Amendment Bill. Now, all 3 are set to be debated in the Senate on Friday. Justice Minister Delroy Chuck, who piloted the Criminal Justice Administration Act, says under the amendment, gun murders will carry a minimum mandatory of 50 years.
Persons who commit murder, they're carrying their own guns. If the police can catch them before they commit murder, the minimum mandatory sentence is 15 years. But when they commit murder, Madam Speaker, using the gun, they cannot expect that the minimum mandatory is 15 years, which is what it is now. And that is why, Madam Speaker, this bill, where they use it and they're found guilty of capital murder, then it's either death or life imprisonment. And if it is life imprisonment, it is with a minimum mandatory sentence of 50 years.
All right, there you have it, Delroy Chuck, Justice Minister. He says the amendments include a lower mandatory minimum if an offender pleads guilty. And I know that that's something that defense attorneys have been calling for, some sort of initiative or incentive. Yeah, that word there. Why it is that I can't say that word? Incentive. There we go. If an offender pleads guilty. All right. So in our Public Opinion this evening, we're asking, what is your reaction to the mandatory minimum sentence of 50 years for capital murder? I'm going to start with the comments on our Instagram platform, where Queen Minnie is saying, loving it. Just ensure the person getting 50 years is the trigger person, and the one who gave the contract should get 100 years. All right. Simone Anderson Simpson is saying, I agree with it. Something must be done to curb crime in our country. Just make sure the right people get put away. Indeed. Chris Duncan, if you do the crime beyond a reasonable doubt, you should do the time. Indeed. Empress is saying capital crime meet capital consequences. Omario, on the other hand, believes that it is rubbish. The mandatory minimum sentence of 50 years for capital murder, Omario saying it's rubbish. All right, let me see if I can get Stepper Driver. He's saying, want to hear the word consecutive used more in the sentences of multiple crimes. Some of these monsters must know that after reincarnation, they will be in prison. And I think this was a conversation I was having with someone as it relates to consecutive and concurrently. Yeah, the penalties. All right. So over on our Facebook platform, what is your reaction to the mandatory minimum sentence of 50 years for capital murder? Natalie Winter saying, no, we're going somewhere.
All right. Neil Walters, me like it. Anything to stop those who are hell-bent on creating havoc in our society. We must invest heavily in the Heart Trust. Not all of us will go to universities. Grace Williams Bailey says, if the person willfully kills someone, then they should even get more than that. That person love one, or they're still left in pain. Mark Ranger says it's kind of excessive, but a evil that's needed. No, as both punishment and deterrent. Yeah. Nikki Becky is saying full support. She's in full support of the mandatory minimum sentence for capital murder being 50 years. Cheryl Griffiths is questioning why not 500? JJ Mack, we're not a criminal sympathizer. Let me see. Shins for Life Law is saying, thank you, Jesus, what a blessing. So where's the 500 years for possession of an illegal firearm? 95% of Jamaica murders are from illegal firearms. Michelle Bernard, excessive depends on the circumstances, like accidentally. But the boy that killed that mother and her 4 kids in Clarendon should get 500. The Paulwell child, wow, okay, so that matter is still before. And the Melissa Silvera is still before, so I won't necessarily comment on those. Audrey Allen said, do the crime, do the time, the grieving time for the family of the victims has no end. Philip Jackson telling us today, crime need drastic measures. We're not playing this time. Keep out of crime and criminality. This is the only solution for your own good. Yeah? Manayard Baker, let's hear what he has to say. If you're man enough to commit the crime, you must be man enough to serve the time. No sympathy for vicious criminals. What's your reaction to the mandatory minimum sentence of 50 years for capital murder? That's what it's going to be if it is that these amendments, if it is that these amendments are passed in the Senate. All three of the bills that were passed in the lower house, are set to be debated in the Senate on Friday. So we look forward to those submissions. All right. Raymond Anderson says, you mean should have capital punishment? Edney Powell is saying that should have happened long time. We're late, but we reach. Yes, Wesley is saying the same thing. Long time it should have happened, and he's saying it's full time. Winston is also saying it should have been more. Wow, Rosalind Buck saying that we need to resume hanging. The end. All right, and that's where we end the comments on our social media platform, but going straight on over to our YouTubers, your reaction to the mandatory minimum sentence of 50 years for capital murder. Patrick Samuels starting us off on YouTube said 50 years sound reasonable. Yeah. Andrea Dunk, that's right. More, not less. Yeah. Patrick Samuels saying to us 50 years. Yes, I read that one already. 50 years sound reasonable. You would say I support you 1000%, Mr. Chuck. John Campbell says it's long overdue. Marva Thomas saying I agree as long as it is the right person. Electra Squad a question if I only 50. Huh? Mercedes Morgan also agreeing. Say a long time as long as it's the right person. Yeah. Let me see if I can get in some more. Samuel Gale here saying 50 years too short because people live more than 50 years. Well, imagine if you're 20 and you get the 50 years. I'm just saying. All right. Let me see if I can get in. Tony is saying 75 years is even better. Yeah. All right. Let me see if I can get in some more. I saw it go. All right. That seems as though it's a different comment there. CJ Martinez saying he supports the bill 100%. Yeah. Greetings to you, Dennis Barnaby. Greetings, Paul Peart. Let me see if I can get in this one. Samuel Wright says, no one have to like it. It's not for you. It's not for no one. Okay, I don't know if it's in relation to the comment here. Yeah. Andrew, if it's good paying job, you okay? No. Wow, CJ, that's a different one. Pekka saying 50 years, you still have life, but the victim dead and gone. Well, there, yes. Greetings, Philip Jackson. Ricardo Hall is saying, we want back with country. Ever bless, 365, should be between 50 and 100 years. Lesko Gordon saying, but we have to fix the judicial system. I suspect you had said something previously to this one right here. Dre views, we're late but we reach. In a Crawford voice. All right, I hear you. Carlene Smith is saying, welcome change. These are welcome changes, and she's questioning why did the minister mention death? Yeah. Not quite certain there. Dwayne Woody, 50 years plus 50 lashes. Wow, yeah, go back in the days, man. We are not criminal sympathizers, says Claude West. San Juan saying 50 years is a good starting point. Yeah. Remember, there are mitigating factors, aggravating factors that may bring up or bring down time spent in jail. Those may bring down as well. So the starting point would be 50. It's 50 years. But there are mitigating and there are aggravating factors. Yeah. Orville Griffith says, love the America system. Give them 500 years. 50 years plus 50 lashes. Wow. Yeah. Let me see. Kevin is saying that we have to be careful because he knows someone serving time for murder they did not commit. Our justice system is not up to standard, says Kevin. And that's the comment I saw about, we just have to ensure that is the right person being sentenced. I saw several comments alluding to that. Dennis Barnaby say, I'm in agreement with the minimum sentence, the minimum mandatory sentence that you have to serve before being eligible for parole. I think they have to serve. Rhymesville Media saying 60 years good. Yeah. All right, guys, I'm getting the wrap-up signal. Thank you so much for your feedback. Really appreciate it. Thanks for your participation. The Business Report is up next.
Public Opinion was brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Drive the most exciting new vehicles in Jamaica. Schedule your 2024 Ford Ranger pickup or Ford Everest 7-seater SUV test drive now. Call or visit KIG today.
The time by KIG is
6:35. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Nationwide's Business Report. I'm Robianne Williams. Mayberry Group Limited says it delivered a resilient performance for the financial year 2024, recording a total comprehensive income of $153 million compared to a loss of $1.4 billion in 2023. Now, the group says this turnaround was achieved despite ongoing challenges in the macroeconomic environment and reflects its disciplined management and diversified investment strategy. Mayberry Investments Limited Chief Executive Officer Gary Peart says, quote, this year's performance highlights the strength of our diversified business model and our ability to navigate a complex economic landscape. We remain focused on executing our strategies and delivering value for our shareholders. End quote. Dividend payments continue to be a strong feature of Mayberry's shareholder returns. Now, over the past 6 years, the group has maintained an average dividend payout of approximately $300 million per annum, delivering a consistent dividend yield of between 4% and 5% relative to the stock price. In total, Mayberry has distributed, they say, $4.4 billion in dividends over time. Further afield, the U.S. economy shrank in the first 3 months of the year as government spending fell and imports surged due to firms racing to get goods into the country ahead of tariffs. The economy contracted at an annual rate of 0.3%, a sharp downturn after growth of 2.4% in the previous quarter. That's according to the Commerce Department. Now, the figures marked the first quarterly decline in 3 years and came as the introduction of import taxes by President Donald Trump has scrambled global trade and created major uncertainty. But analysts say it would take more time to understand the impact of the tariff changes. And finally, at the end of trading today, it cost 159 Jamaican dollars and 46 cents to buy 1 British pound, 212 Jamaican dollars and 91 cents to buy 1 British pound, and 115 Jamaican dollars and 64 cents to buy the Canadian dollar. That's the business report. I'm Roby Ann Williams. Good evening.
Stop buying expensive toner cartridges. Global Ink is now selling new factory direct generic toners. Remove factory seals, install and print. Engineered to work first time, every time. Certified for use in HB and Brother printers. Worry-free, affordable printing for your peace of mind. Money saved is money earned. We deliver island-wide. 754-7444 or 1-888-NEED-INK. Never run out of toner again. Global Ink.
Every day, we use our feet to walk, run, and take us to amazing places. But your feet can do something even more amazing. A simple step can change a life. Join Guardian Group's Shine 5K Night Run, formerly the Keep It Alive 5K, and make us try to support the Noel Holmes Hospital, the Bustamante Hospital for Children, and Project Star. Saturday, May 10 in Kingston and Saturday, May 24 in Montego Bay. New name, but same epic vibe. Register today at run2shineja.com or runningeventsja.com and see you at Shine 2025.
If it's in the public's interest, it's the nation's business during Nationwide at 5. The nation's business.
As we grow older, there are many challenges that we have to confront, but these years can represent the best in our lives. Coming of Age during Nationwide This Morning on Thursdays explores issues persons 50 and over confront. It also provides expert opinions on how we can improve the quality of our lives as we get older. That's Coming of Age, this and every Thursday during Nationwide This Morning at 6:51 a.m.
Taboo topics, bulletins after dark,
riveting discussions,
celebrity news and interviews,
topics that are shunned by society,
and everything else in between. Boyatings After Dark with Kareem Boyatings each and every Wednesday, 8 to 11 p.m. Boyatings After Dark. No topic is too taboo or hard to discuss. Come get your mind blown and your curiosity explored. Boyatings After Dark.
Cliff Says is by far the most popular mid-morning radio segment in Jamaica. Cliff Hughes shares his views on the hot-button topics of the day, editorializing on various issues in the news, breaking news stories, and expounding on stories. Cliff Says sets the tone of the show for the rest of the day. Join the award-winning journalist Cliff Hughes weekdays during Cliff Hughes Online at 10 to 10:30 a.m. Join the revolution in media.
Cliff Says is brought to you by Educom Credit Union, providing value through service, and Hyundai, modern premium affordable vehicles.
Good evening, listeners. It's 6:41 and it's time for the nation's business. I'm Siobhan Campbell.
And my name is Sanjay Lewis. On Tuesday, Parliament passed a number of amendments to 3 key crime bills. Those are the Offences Against the Person Bill, the Criminal Justice Administration Bill, and the Child Care and Protection Amendment Bill. All 3 are set to be debated in the Senate on Friday. Shalai Smichael reports.
Justice Minister Delroy Chuck says the 3 bills are the result of extensive consultation through the Joint Select Committee process convened from as far back as 2023. Minister Chuck notes that the government lowered the penalties related to non-capital murder as he outlined the changes made to the offences against the Person Amendment Bill.
The mandatory minimum penalty proposed now is 30 years instead of 45 years. Where a term of years has been imposed, the period must be served before becoming eligible for parole is proposed 20 years instead of 35 years. As it pertains, Madam Speaker, to the Criminal Justice Administration Amendment Bill, it seeks to amend Section 42F of the Criminal Justice Administration Act by increasing the term of years to be deemed as life imprisonment from 30 years to 50 years where the offence committed is murder. The starting point for calculating the reduction in the sentence is usually life imprisonment, and the aim of this proposed amendment is to maintain an incentive scheme for defendants to plead guilty while ensuring that the reduced sentence is not inordinately low, having regard to the serious nature of the offence.
Minister Chuck says the aim of the proposed amendment is to maintain an incentive scheme for defendants to plead guilty while ensuring that the reduced sentence is not inordinately low, having regard to the serious nature of the offence. The minister who piloted the bills through the House of Representatives further notes that the provisions of the bills are carefully designed to be proportionate and constitutional.
This government is committed to justice, not vengeance. But we must also recognize that the punishment for murder must serve as a clear and unequivocal signal that the sanctity of life is paramount, and those who take it unlawfully must face serious consequences. At the same time, Madam Speaker, the provisions of the bill are carefully designed to be proportionate, constitutional, and respectful of the rights of all persons, including the right to due process and the possibility of rehabilitation in cases where it is genuinely warranted.
He adds that the bills seek to appropriately treat with and increase the penalties for the offence of murder under Jamaican law.
Every Jamaican has a right to feel safe in their home, in their community, and in their country. If we are to uphold that right, we must ensure that our laws are firm, fair, and responsive to the challenges we face. These bills, Madam Speaker, are not the sole answer to the crime problem, but they are a necessary part of the solution, a signal that the state takes seriously its duty to protect life and uphold justice.
Shalois Michael for Nationwide News.
Thank you, Shaloy. Meanwhile, the Justice Minister who piloted the bill says under the amendment, gun murders will carry a minimum mandatory of 50 years. He says the amendments include a lower mandatory minimum if an offender pleads guilty.
Non-capital murder is also one in which the sentence can be life imprisonment depending on the nature of the crime and the fact that the offender might plead guilty. It is life imprisonment, and if it is life imprisonment or a fixed term, and that fixed term cannot be less than 30 years, but once convicted of non-capital murder, then the mandatory minimum is 20 years. 20 years imprisonment.
That's Delroy Chuck, the Justice Minister, speaking in the House of Representatives on Tuesday. Well, we're going to take a short break, listeners, and when we come back, we'll speak to Attorney Bert Samuels about this bill.
This time signal is sponsored by Janet Global Accreditation, an agency of the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. The time is now.
It's 6:46. Welcome back, listeners and viewers. We're talking about mandatory minimums. A bill passed in the House of Representatives will increase the mandatory minimum penalties for various murder offenses. That's capital and non-capital murder. To discuss further, we have with us Attorney Bert Samuels. Good evening, Mr. Samuels.
Good evening.
So, the bill obviously has been through quite a few changes since it was initially proposed by the government, including adjustments to the various mandatory minimum penalties. This final rendition of the legislation, Mr. Samuels, does it meet your favor?
It's a tough question. Let me tell you what the problem I'm having. When I started studying law in 1974, I was embraced and accepted the separation of powers.
Yes.
That is, we have the executive that sets policy. We have the legislature at Gordon House that makes the laws. And then we have the judiciary who interpret the laws and impose sentences and punishment, either civil or criminal. What I'm increasingly seeing is that the Parliament of Jamaica has taken over from the judges. When you listen to Minister Chuck a while ago in his statement, he sounds like what judges used to say. This matter is serious, life is precious, and the sentence I'm going to impose on you has to reflect the nature of the crime. I sentence you to X years imprisonment. That's how Mr. Chuck sounded a while ago. So the ministers in the Parliament, several of them, some from both sides, have taken over from judges. They are now sitting in Parliament and telling judges what to do and what kind of sentences they should impose. Now, yeah, go ahead.
Part of the challenge, though, Bert Samuels, and I will allow you to finish the point, but part of the challenge that the politicians have is the pressure from the people, respond to certain things. And one of the things that the minister argue is that these reforms are necessary, and it's a necessary response to the high homicide rate that we're seeing in the country. How do you deal with that?
All of that?
Yeah.
I heard all of that. Judges respond to the community. Judges have said, listen, I have to take into consideration what the Jamaican community, the Jamaican society thinks about your offense. And now that you're found guilty, I'm going to punish you based on what I know, because I live in the society that reflects what the community thinks is the right thing to do. So, Chuck and I are on the same page. It's just the wrong place. The place where all of this should be said is in a courtroom where judges, in the separation of powers, that's I am committed to the separation of powers. So all this question about sentencing and what should fit the crime, judges are trained and equipped to do that, not politicians who are seeking in a near election to sound bad and tough so they can get reelected. That's what it's all about, and I'm not afraid to say that. But they have taken over the function of judges. Judges are not robots. Give them the maximum sentence, and then they now will say what fits the crime. Why don't we trust judges? They are not qualified to sentence. So what is happening is that the Parliament is now taking over sentencing Jamaican citizens. Well, let's see where it will end. Because listen, that same Parliament, what are they doing to the prisons? What are the conditions in prisons like? Is it conducive to rehabilitation? Because a lot of prisoners, the 18-year-old who gets 20 years imprisonment will come out when he's 38. When he comes out, does he have a job? When he comes out, has he been schooled in the prisons by senior criminals to become a worse person, and therefore the cycle of crime continues? Oh, yes, we know people are cheering and say, oh, it's good that the Parliament is doing this. Get tough. And then you see who is going to get tough. That boy who comes out of prison at 38, 39, 40 will come out making our society a less safe place. But we're all short-sighted, so let me see people cheering this on. I maybe not live long enough to see the outcome, but God bless us.
But Mr. Samuels, do you at least recognize the concern raised by Minister Chuck and a lot in the Jamaican society that what about the victims and their families at the end of the day when a man takes away someone they love and he gets, after certain reports and inquiries and plea bargaining, he gets less than 12 years because of certain mitigating factors? Do you not feel that it leaves certain individuals unsatisfied with the system of justice?
Good. So, in other words, you seem to be like Mr. Chuck saying, all of that situation, all of those considerations, our judges have proven that they are not equipped. In fact, that's what you just said. They only get 12 years. So, Mr. Chuck and his friends in Parliament, on both sides of the Parliament, are better able and equipped to consider what is the appropriate sentence. Well, I need to go back to school and destroy a lot of the books that I read and then get a new book called Sentence is the Purview of our Parliament, not judges. Judges should just try people, and then no, the sentence is rubber-stamped by what the Parliament wishes. If that's what we want, fine. But all those things, I've said it before. I don't know how often you've sat in a courtroom and hear a judge sentencing a Jamaican citizen, but everything that Mr. Chuck has said, I've heard judges repeat it and impose sentences. So it's just that you're saying, and Mr. Chuck is of the view, that the parliamentarians are better able to determine sentence than our judges. You have to concede that that's the position.
But let us argue from that position before you go, Sanjay. Let's argue from that position. Wouldn't the politician who is closer to the matter in terms of in the neighborhoods, in the communities where a lot of this crime takes place, and they hear the pleas and cries of the victims, wouldn't they be more in terms of informed about the impact it has on society in terms of the penalties that are imposed when murders take place?
That sounds so beautiful. What about the juries who they don't want? They say judge alone must try matters. The same point was being made that jurors live in the community and they understand the people. So there are conflicts and contradictions within the parliament. When it suits them, I'm telling you, an election is coming close. And you have to, if you sound
no, but except though, Bert Samuels, we know the challenges that we've been facing with getting a jury empanel. That is part of the challenge that delay the system also.
No.
So that's a real challenge.
I'm in the courtroom. Please don't think that's not true. Those are the exceptions. They have a lot of jurors to try matters. They have a lot of jurors. The police are just lazy. They don't want to go out and serve enough summons. I work in the system. Please, sir, that's an outsider's view. The insiders like me know that the jury problem is an easy fix. It's just that we don't want to fix it because we don't like it. Please.
What's the easy fix?
The easy fix is to serve the summons and let people come to court, become jurors. Serve them properly and find the people. That's the easy fix.
Yeah, but all right, but let's come back to the point that Siobhan made earlier, because one of the things that Minister Chuck indicated is that the legislature, as the lawmaking body, cannot avoid the responsibility and the authority to declare policies, to guidelines, which reflects society. To reflect what the society is demanding. Yes. And as MPs, they have to reflect the sentiments of their constituents.
Yes, they must set policy and they must set guidelines. So you say for capital murder, it's either the death penalty. Well, Mr. Chuck at one time didn't believe in the death penalty. All right, but so this is the law I'd like to see. That for capital murder, the judge can give you up to 60 years. That's setting the limit. Now the judge must hear. Remember, although we have the death penalty for capital murder, the Privy Council has said that although the Parliament says you must be hanged if you are found guilty for capital murder, the Privy Council has said, listen, a man must be able to make representations to a judge to say why the death penalty should not be imposed on him. And the court should listen to that. So that particular decision is trying to say that the last say for sentence cannot be left to politicians who are seeking re-election or seeking to change and become the new government. The timing of this, all of this is timed in a year when we know what is going to happen. And I'm old enough to know that politicians play tough when they want the crowd to follow them.
But to be fair, though, Bert Samuels, this is something that the minister has been discussing for a number of years.
For a few years.
It's not new.
He said 2023. He said 2023. He said this. You were listening to him. He said that this started in 2023. He has been the minister for 16 years. So it's in the last 2 years of his thing. He's getting serious about this. Has crime been wicked to us and terrible over the last 16 years? The answer is yes. And are murders going down? Yes, they're going down. So, it's careful how you use statistics. When I went to school, I heard that you could lie with statistics.
No, but I'm correcting a point. But to be fair, though, Bert Samuels, you indicated that the minister is being tough because it's an election year. And I countered that by saying this did not start this year or last year. This has been in train for a number of years. So that would diminish the point that you're making about an election year.
My brother, The minister said this has been on the table since 2023. Were you listening to him? What do you mean
Yes.
by a number of years? The minister just said on your tape that it started in 2023. So you're the one not being fair.
Mr. Samuels, I have to question though. You suggest that this is somehow the parliament overstepping, but isn't this not the function of the parliament? For example, if they had set a fine for some $5 million when the fine was previously $2 million, how is this any different by them setting a minimum standard for a capital offense such as murder, rather than having it set at the previous offense if they feel that times have changed and the penalty must be ratcheted up based on the societal conditions? How is that any different?
The problem I'm having is that under the separation of powers, penalty belongs to a judge. You and I have a fundamental disagreement on that. I can't convince you. You're not able to convince you. Penalty is for judges, not politicians.
So a fine is not a penalty, and aren't the fines set by the politicians in most instant cases?
The fines in a normal case is a maximum fine of X amount. And the judge may say, in many cases, I'm going to fine you a nominal sum based on the facts of this case. That's how I grew up with. Maybe I'm too old, so I'm not.
So it's the minimum. It's the fact that a minimum has been placed in this instant case. That is the issue.
Yeah, the minimum means that the judge has no
discretion beyond that minimum.
No, and the minimum is 50 years, and the minimum for young men is 20 years for non-capital. Oh yes, I told you. You don't seem to have. You haven't dealt with the question. When you go to prison, the facilities there are not to make you a better person. You're coming out at age 38, a worse person. You have graduated. You have learned from all the people that are talking to you in the prison, the senior criminals. You come out as a graduate of crime. That's the side of it that, fortunately for me, I know. I'm not guessing that. I go to the prisons and talk to them. I see them come out, and they become better criminals when they come out, and the society is worse off. So if you're going to put people in prison for 20 years, can you find something to make them better people when they come out? Let's stay with the minimums now. But what is being done about the prison population to come out so that we get a safer society?
And I think we would agree, I think both of us would agree that the state of the nation's prisons leaves a lot to be desired, both in terms of their meeting the standards of human rights and their function as rehabilitative agents. So I think, but do you feel that even in that consideration, and we're not trying to disentangle the two issues, but even in that consideration, isn't there a necessity for the government to show legislatively that they take the matter of murders, which has been a serious issue in society, seriously?
I agree. I know that's what it's all about. I'm going to let you into a secret. Fixing prisons don't give you votes, so they'll never be fixed. The general penitentiary is 2 centuries old. They used to keep enslaved Africans down there. So the prisons will never be fixed, because fixing prisons don't give you votes, although it is a human right to be kept in a place that is humane. I mean, some people don't believe. They think you should take them out every morning and beat them. But I have a different view about rehabilitation. Rehabilitation should not come out of the mouth of people who speak the way that they are speaking in the parliament today. They have no interest in rehabilitation. You put 6 men in a cell that is as big as a small bedroom, and 6 of them are in there. What do you expect to come out? If you want a dog to be bad, you chain him, and he becomes a badder dog. So I'm sorry for it. I'm really sorry for it.
Then, Mr. Samuels, I have to ask this, and I'm going to ask it as respectfully as possible, but this is a view shared by many in the society. I hope you understand the motivation behind the question and not suggest it's an attempt to attack your character or the character of any other person in the legal profession. But there is a belief that lawyers are standing against this matter of increasing the mandatory minimums because it is affecting their bottom line. Do you believe that is a fair interpretation?
And just to add to that, then you can't find a loophole then in the system to get a lower time for your client.
No, let me explain how it is. I am the attorney in this conversation. The harsher the penalties, the higher the fees. Let me just repeat that and educate you. The harsher the penalties, the higher are the legal fees, because people are facing greater sentences. So could you ask people who talk that nonsense to stop it?
So there's no basis for that claim, because at the end of the day, you and other attorneys will still be able to stay in profit, so to speak.
No, you're talking to the wrong person. I'm in retirement, sir. So carry that conversation somewhere.
Understood.
Okay.
Understood, Mr. Samuels. But just to keep on the point, because you did raise a point that I believe is valid, this matter of prison reform. Was this discussed?
No, that's not the point I raised. I didn't raise that point.
But you raised that time. You don't believe that tangential issue?
You're raising half of my point. That says prisons are terrible and they don't give votes when you fix them. That's the point. Don't make any other point from what I'm saying, please.
But I think we can at least agree, Mr. Samuels, that, as I said, the prisons are in a state that require attending to. We agree there.
Have you ever been in there? Have you ever been into
I have, unfortunately. Not for a criminal offense, but I have visited a prison.
Visited a prison. Have you been in a cell? You haven't been. You're not allowed. I am allowed. You are not allowed. You didn't go in no cell. You didn't go in no cell. You just go in the yard.
Very well, yes.
Thank you. I know. Well, let me tell you. I go river bottom. So listen to me. And I have clients who go in and come out, and I know what they're doing when they came out.
No, but I'm agreeing with you, Mr. Samuels, that the prisons are in need of adjustment. Why do we not then pursue that as a matter of urgency in terms of our advocacy, rather than suggest that this matter of mandatory minimums is somehow divorced?
But you're not pursuing that with the minister. It is Mr. Chuck who you must tell that to. Why are you putting me? You're afraid.
But you're an attorney, and you represent clients that you say must go through this system where they turn out worse. Why do you not make that advocacy as well?
Oh, so I must wear that hat too. Okay, I'll think about it.
Very well, Mr. Samuels. I understand your opinion on this matter. Thank you so much for your time. It really is appreciated. Have a good evening, sir. That is Bert Samuels, attorney at law, discussing mandatory minimums, an interesting topic, so to speak. Well, listeners, we take a break and then we come back with more.
Get the inside scoop. Tune in to Budget Bites, a brief breakdown of the 2025 budget presentation by Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness. It's an informative snapshot of the budget and what it means for you. Don't miss Budget Bites, bite-sized insights into the Prime Minister's vision for Jamaica. Budget Bites, unpacking the budget for you.
Let us recall that the drop in murders from 2009, for which the opposition seeks to take credit, was a direct result of the state of public emergency launched in May 2010 by the Jamaica Labour Party administration, which dismantled and scattered the gangs and created a 21% drop in murders in 2011. 21% drop in murders in 2011. No other police action has resulted in any such drop. In 2011, murders stabilized, and in 2012, stabilized. This created a respite where targeted police operations against gangs and violence producers resulted in 2024 having the lowest number of murders in the last 20 years. But it's not as a result of the PMP's action. It is as a result of the 2010 state of public emergency, which gave you a 21% reduction, then a slight carry-on reduction in 2012. I still posit that if the opposition then had supported the government in extended the state of public emergency, the fall in murders would have been even greater. In mid-2014, the PNP introduced the Unite for Change, an ostensible crime-fighting strategy that leaned heavily on social intervention. There was also a change of police commissioners and an apparent change in crime-fighting strategy. By 2015, murders began to rise again. under the PNP, even with the much touted Unite for Change initiative in full effect. The truth is that the PNP shifted focus from targeted operations against gangs and gang leaders and allowed them space to regroup. The number of gangs in the country increased from 200 in 2010 to 350 by 2016. And we saw the impact of this from 2015 through 2017. That is why my administration decided to take decisive action. We recognize the emergency threat organized criminal enterprises and violence producers pose to specific communities and the country generally. We responded with zones of special operation and states of public emergencies to halt the persistent spiral in murders from 2015 to 2017. The SOEs and zones of special operations were successful in taking back communities from gangs, displacing criminals, disrupting their operations, and limiting their space and opportunity to commit crime. This resulted in a 22% reduction in murders in 2018 and a leveling off between 2019 and 2020. The success of the SOEs and the ZOZO came with the support of the opposition at the time. And I here must give credit to the former leader of the opposition, the Honorable Dr. Peter Phillips, who understood their necessity and supported their extension. However, since the change in leadership in the opposition in 2020, we have not been able to use the SOEs to full effect. We have used them, but not to full effect. And we saw a 10% spike in murders in 2021. This could have been prevented and lives saved if narrow political interests parading as protecting rights did not blind the current opposition leader to protecting the right to life of the victims of murder by supporting extensions of the SOE. In parallel with emergency measures, this administration in 2018 embarked on an ambitious plan to indigenously reform and reorganize the JCF under the direction of a new commissioner, Major General Anthony Anderson, to include development of leadership, recruitment and training of personnel, and the acquisition of material and technology. It was never the intention of the government to rely solely on emergency measures. We used emergency measures to treat with the crime situation, which was over and above the existing capacity of regular law enforcement at the time. And we used the space and attenuation it created to build the capacity of the security forces. Therefore, in 2022, we began to realize the impact of the reforms and capability building investments in the JCF.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Every day, we use our feet to walk, run, and take us to amazing places. But your feet can do something even more amazing. A simple step can change a life. Join Guardian Group's Shine 5K Night Run, formerly the Keep It Alive 5K, and make us try to support the Noel Holmes Hospital, the Bustamante Hospital for Children, and Project STAR. Saturday, May 10 in Kingston and Saturday, May 24 in Montego Bay. New name, but same epic vibe. Register today at run2shineja.com or runningeventsja.com and see you at Shine 2025.
The Watchman. Exploring issues shaping our society, government, and business. Provocative, unconventional. Dr. Henley Morgan is The Watchman.
Good evening. Doing the wrong things well. The Watchman prides itself on being non-political, non-partisan, and unbiased in its views, pointing out those things that depart from proper stewardship and probity, and lauding those things that mark progress in thought or action. It is misguided people who, for narrow political motives, see no good in the opposition, or who want to see their government fail. Striking a balance is hard, especially in the run-up to a general election. This commentary will persist anyhow, and trust well-thinking listeners to be the judge as to its even-handedness, fairness, and value to national discourse. With that said, during the groundbreaking and contract signing ceremony for the Raintree Commercial Complex on April 16, 2025 in Ferry Pen, St. Catherine, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness made an observation which, although not new, seldom has ever been expressed with such clarity, simplicity, and conviction, highlighting improvements at the Urban Development Corporation, UDC, which is in charge of managing the project. The Prime Minister said it has been the custom of workers in the government sector to work on trying to perfect the bureaucracy when they should really be working on perfecting the lives of those they serve. Speaking a month earlier at a March 17 swearing-in ceremony for two newly appointed ministers, the Prime Minister took an important step in advancing what has become his laser focus on reducing bureaucratic red tape and improving government efficiency. Quoting from an Office of the Prime Minister OPM press release, this is what he said in part. Senator, the Honorable Ambassador Audrey Marks has been given specific responsibility for efficiency, innovation, and digital transformation. Her role will be instrumental in reforming government bureaucracy to create a more agile, innovation-driven, and growth-oriented public sector. Minister Marks will oversee the streamlining processes for efficiency and economic development, speed, initiative. End quote. Those among my listeners who get your news from varied sources, locally and internationally, may detect some similarities in goals and objectives between Prime Minister Holness's SPEED, headed by Audrey Marks, and President Trump's DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, headed by Elon Musk. One hopes that's where the similarities end. Unlike Audrey Marks, Elon Musk does not occupy a cabinet-level position. He is what is referred to as an efficiency czar, with wide-ranging power, who reports to no one but the president. With that level of autonomy, he has embarked on a rampage symbolized by chainsaw in hand, which he proudly displayed at the CPAC 2025 convention, cutting departments and personnel at will. Mistakes have been made, and protests, some politically motivated, have popped up across the country. Buffing and polishing the government bureaucracy with the hope that it will improve is tantamount to doing the wrong things well. One hopes the new minister will be given the level of authority as well as financial and staff support to get the job done. Think on these things.
Produced by Agency for Inner City Renewal, AIR, and recorded in the Jamming Studio Trenchtown, a breath of fresh air bringing change to the inner city.
Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, is a financial reporting firm that delivers accounting and compliance services on time. Call us today at 876-908-0486 to 7. Email us at clientservices@cocnjamaica.com or visit our website at www.cocnjamaica.com. COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
Experience the joy of buying a brand new Hyundai without breaking the bank. Yes, buying a brand new car should never leave you broke. From stylish designs and safety features to comfortable driving and reliability, Hyundai is the choice. Hyundai vehicles come standard with 2 years free service and 5 years warranty and roadside assistance for your peace of mind. Drive 2 years without service cost and 5 years without fear of being stranded. Hyundai. Conditions apply.
Welcome back, listeners. I know we're getting ready to take your calls, but we still have one matter to take care of, another bit of international news. U.S. President Donald Trump has celebrated his 100th day of his second term in office with a campaign-style speech touting his achievements and targeting political foes. Hailing what he called a revolution of common sense, he told a crowd of supporters in Michigan that he was using his presidency to deliver profound change. The BBC is reporting that Trump mocked his Democratic predecessor Joe Biden and aimed fresh criticism at the U.S. Federal Reserve Chairman while dismissing polls that show his own popularity slipping.
Trump has delivered a dramatic fall in the number of migrants crossing illegally into the U.S., but the economy is a potential political vulnerability as he wages a global trade war. Speaking at the hub of America's automotive industry, Trump said car firms were lining up to open new manufacturing plants in the Midwestern state. Earlier in the day, he softened a key element of his economic plan, tariffs on the import of foreign cars and car parts, after U.S. car makers warned of the danger of rising prices. More in this report from the BBC.
President Trump has told supporters that his administration's achievements amounted to a revolution of common sense as he celebrated his first 100 days in office. Speaking in Michigan, Mr. Trump insisted his tariff policies were a success, declaring to the crowd, "You ain't seen nothing yet." However, his approval ratings at 100 days are at the lowest level for any president for nearly 70 years. Donald Trump also attacked the legacy of his predecessor, Joe Biden, while claiming no other president had achieved more during their first few months in office. That is something we will be fact-checking in just a moment. But first, let's have a listen to Mr. Trump.
We're here tonight in the heartland of our nation to celebrate the most successful first 100 days of any administration in the history of our country, and that's according to many, many people.
So that statement clearly is a matter of opinion. Mr. Trump went on to make a number of other very specific claims regarding his achievements in office, ranging from inflation to immigration. BBC Verify's Jake Horton has been fact-checking Trump's 100-day speech. A lot of you have been reading his article on the BBC News website. Jake, let's start firstly with the price of petrol, which was something that was mentioned by Mr. Trump.
So tackling inflation was a key issue in the campaign, and it's a key issue for the administration in their first 100 days. And specifically on the price of gasoline in the US, so petrol, President Trump said this last night.
So gasoline prices are down by a lot. We just hit $1.98 in a lot of states. Think of it.
So both of those things are not accurate. So the price of gasoline from the day that Trump entered office to this week has actually ticked up slightly, according to the American Automobile Association, which tracks this sort of thing. On the 20th of January, the day that Trump entered office, the average gas price, regular gas price in the US was $3.13, around about that. And this week it stands at $3.16. So not up massively, ticked up slightly, but certainly not way down, as Trump said in that clip. And he also made a very specific claim about gas prices in certain states. And he said they're down to $1.98 in a lot of states. And the same association which tracks gas prices across the US also breaks it down state by state. And there's no evidence that any state has an average gas price that low. The lowest state is Mississippi. In Mississippi, the average gas price at the moment this week is $2.67. So a fair bit off that $1.98 that Trump quoted in his rally last night.
What about immigration?
On immigration, obviously another major campaign issue and an issue for the administration. And on his record on immigration in his first 3 months in office, President Trump said this last night.
We've set all-time records for the lowest number of illegal border crossings ever recorded. Think of that, ever recorded.
Is that true?
Now, that is backed up by US Border Patrol statistics. So last month in March, as well as in February, the first 2 full months Trump was in office, immigration numbers have reached record lows. We have a graphic we can show you of that. That's actually a graphic to do with DOGE, but we do have an immigration chart which shows the level of immigration in March, the amount of encounters crossing the US border. Hit 7,000, just over 7,000 migrants crossed the US border and were encountered by Border Patrol. So that is the lowest on record since monthly records began in 2000. Compared to the Biden administration, for context, the monthly totals in March last year were around 140,000, so a significant drop. Trump said it was the lowest ever. Migration policy think tanks which track these sort of things say that it certainly is the lowest since records began on monthly data. They do say if you look back to the 1960s, the average monthly totals were lower, but it certainly is a significant drop in recent times that Trump administration has overseen.
You mentioned there, Jake, DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, very controversial and the connection to Elon Musk, of course. Let's have a listen to what President Trump had to say about that.
They've saved $150 billion on waste, fraud, and abuse. DOGE.
$150 billion of savings.
So this is the government initiative by Elon Musk, which aims to dramatically cut US government spending. On the campaign trail, Musk initially said it would cut $2 trillion from the US federal government budget. He later revised this down to $1 trillion. And DOGE's website at the moment said they've cut so far about $160 billion from the federal government budget. Now, that is around about the ballpark that President Trump quoted in his clip there. But it's important to say that a lot of these savings, according to BBC Verify's analysis, are not actually backed up by any solid evidence. So as you can see in this graphic, out of that $160 billion total, which is on DOGE's website, only about $60 billion of that are broken down by individual savings, and only about half of that total has a receipt attached as proof. So they say $160 billion, but it's very hard to independently verify that without any solid proof for a lot of those claimed savings.
So there you have it. In the meantime, the U.S. economy shrank in the first 3 months of the year. This as government spending fell and imports surged due to firms racing to get goods into the country ahead of tariffs. According to the Commerce Department, the economy contracted at an annual rate of 0.3%, a sharp downturn after growth of 2.4% in the previous quarter.
And the figures marked the first quarterly decline in 3 years. It also came as the introduction of import taxes by President Trump has scrambled global trade and created major uncertainty. DW News has more in this report.
The US economy shrank by 0.3% in the first quarter of this year, the first drop for 3 years. US stocks opened lower in response to the news. Economists say GDP fell because of a surge in imports as companies rushed to bring in foreign goods before President Donald Trump imposed his tariffs. Posting on social media, the president told people to be patient, adding that the slowdown had nothing to do with tariffs, but was rather what he called an overhang from his predecessor, Joe Biden. Let's get more on this from our business correspondent, Jens Korte in New York. Welcome, Jens. What's your assessment? What's caused this contraction?
I feel the main reason clearly were imports in preparation of the tariffs. If you look at imports statistically, because those goods are not made in the United States, they get contracted from those GDP figures, and imports have been up in the first quarter by a stunning 40%. But that was not the only reason. We also saw, for example, federal spending in the past couple of years. That has been also a big driver for growth in the United States. So that also was one factor. So lower federal spending that put pressure on growth here in the United States.
So is this news likely then, do you think, to influence the president's tariff policy?
Well, I mean, we did hear from the CEO of Caterpillar. They had weaker quarterly numbers out today. And Caterpillar, at least, is hopeful that we will see some trade deals and that this actually might take some pressure off. And we already saw it a good week ago, when we had a lot of pressure on financial markets. And that's when the tone out of Washington got a bit smoother when it comes to the relationship with the Federal Reserve, when it comes to the relationship with trading partners like China. So clearly we don't know, but all this turmoil on financial markets could be, or could persuade the U.S. administration maybe to scale back some of the plans that we're seeing right now.
So I guess the big question then becomes, is this a blip or the start of a downward trend?
Well, Phil, I would say we see more and more anecdotal evidence that there is pressure on the U.S. economy. We do hear that from a couple of U.S. corporations who are very hesitant to invest at this point. Clearly, what is always important for the U.S. economy and other economies as well is the labor market. If people feel confident to get a job, keep their job, maybe get a pay raise. I mean, that is definitely helping the overall mood. And we shouldn't forget, the U.S. is still a country that depends on consumption and not on exports. And we did get some fresh figures from the private sector today that only 62,000 jobs got created in April, at least job creation, but it was only about half what economists had expected. So we get the big labor report on Friday, but there are definitely anecdotal, or there is anecdotal evidence that the US economy is not doing that hot at the moment.
Okay, so if people are nervous and keeping their hands in their pockets and businesses are scared to invest, does this look like the US might slide into recession?
The R word, Phil, is definitely out there. I mean, technically speaking, to be in a recession, we would need to see 2 consecutive quarters of a negative growth. So now we already got quarter number 1 in negative territory, and then we will see what happens in the current quarter. I mean, we all know the main tariffs are paused till the beginning of July. So that could mean that a lot of corporations might remain hesitant to invest at this point, and that could maybe cause a recession here in the United States. But obviously, we have to still wait and see.
Okay, thanks, Jens. Business correspondent Jens Korte in New York.
You know, Siobhan.
Well, here in Europe, meanwhile, the Eurozone economy grew faster than forecasters expected, even though it's still dealing with the fallout from Donald Trump's trade war. Overall, the 20 countries that make up the Eurozone saw their economies expand by 0.4% in this first quarter. The biggest of those, Germany, grew by only 0.2%, but even that was higher than expected. First quarter inflation also appears to have slowed.
So there you have it. The picture there on the global markets, not as rosy, particularly in the United States, where they seem to have contracted by 0.3%. Not good news, neither for the United States or here in Jamaica, because if there's a contraction in the United States, that means less spending from Americans here in Jamaica on matters such as tourism and or goods being exported to the United States. Go ahead, Sanjay.
Yeah, and that's major for us because we know we depend heavily on the United States, especially for tourism, and there are people coming to the country. But Donald Trump, Siobhan, has a remarkable gift of deflection. And he's a master marketer, I call him. Yeah? Because despite having the lowest approval rating of any US president in a very long time, after the first 100 days in office, you would never know it that all of that is happening, because he finds a way to paint a rosy picture that everything is going smoothly, the country is thriving, and when in reality, the numbers are telling a very different story. But he deflects, speaks about his predecessor, Joe Biden, and that everything is fine. And his supporters also, they listen to him and sell his message. So whatever Donald Trump is doing, it's working in his favor. But we're seeing, though, Siobhan, that the market, it's saying otherwise.
Well, the market doesn't respond to a sales pitch as easily as a person does. And as you said, he is the consummate salesman, and he is doing his best to make that spin a reality, even if it's not necessarily panning out that way on the international scene. But Sanjay, as I said, time will tell if this, as I see it, insanity from the White House actually, if there is a method to the madness. But that is for more well-read, more understanding minds to calculate and tabulate than me.
Well, you know, Ricardo and I spoke about it a couple of weeks ago, and we did say, let's see, because there could be, as you indicated, some method to the madness, because it could mean that the markets settle in, find ways to deal with the tariff that exists, bring back some of the jobs to the United States and make it work for them, and then the U.S., of course, will benefit. So it's either one of two things, you know. It's either Donald Trump, his policies will sink or swim. And only time will tell what will happen.
Yes, I think that is, I don't know, that is it. Only time will tell, and it is time for your calls, listeners. The numbers are 630-937-124 and 618-8255. Come chat with us.
Every day, we use our feet to walk, run, and take us to amazing places. But your feet can do something even more amazing. A simple step can change a life. Join Guardian Group's Shine 5K Night Run, formerly the Keep It Alive 5K, and make us try to support the Noel Holmes Hospital, the Bustamante Hospital for Children, and Project STAR. Saturday, May 10 in Kingston and Saturday, May 24 in Montego Bay. New name, but same epic vibe. Register today at run2shineja.com or runningeventsja.com and see you at Shine 2025.
Taboo topics, bulletins after dusk,
Riveting discussions,
celebrity news and interviews,
topics that are shunned by society,
and everything else in between. Boyatings After Dark with Kareem Boyatings, each and every Wednesday, 8 to 11 p.m. Boyatings After Dark. No topic is too taboo or hard to discuss. Come get your mind blown and your curiosity explored. Boyatings After Dark.
Welcome back, listeners. We're taking your calls. The numbers are 630-937-124 and 618-8255. Carl, how are you?
Good evening, Sanjay.
Hi, Carl.
Evening, Carl.
Doing well, doing well. Want to ask you two questions. I know I bright people.
Are these going to be rhetorical questions or questions that you actually want to answer to?
Yes, because if you are a senator and you sit inside the parliament Friday gone, and you voted towards a bill for the teachers then. And if I understand what the Minister of Education said, read on the news this evening, I understand that clearly. Don't the PMP with that inside the Senate could have abstained from not voting?
That is a good question you raised, Carl. I found it strange as well because the bill passed without any dissension. They raised concerns, yes. Mr. Crawford did raise concerns in the Senate, but when it came down to voting time, there was no call for a divide and there was no call to have the individual senators register their vote. It was just passed. So I found it strange when it came down to this week now that all these concerns are now coming out into the air.
Thank you very much. That's why I tell you asking a bright people coming up bright.
And furthermore, and what further troubled me, Mr. Crawford, yes, he is the spokesperson for education, but he was the only person on the opposition side who spoke to the bill. And he talks about the seriousness to which he believes that the government isn't taking the matter. But what does that say about your side? First, only 3 opposition senators showed up, and only one person contributed to the debate on the opposition side. That to me is very troubling. And it was troubling on the day. I said, why is only one person on the opposition speaking on this matter?
The minister said also this evening that it is either they're not reading the documents that come in front of them, or them, she never used the word. But you come in know, so I use the word that Damien Crawford did use up in a constituency over Miss Foley, the chickster. The reason why him raising all these matters now is because the teachers them went to have a discussion on it Sunday night. And he feel to say he can get a mileage out of that now. So he might jump on the teachers them bandwagon. That's the only reason.
I see somebody say that Bunting spoke on it. He contributed to the opening the week prior, but it was not. It wasn't what I would consider a debate contribution. He simply noted that the bill was now in front of the Senate. He did not give any lengthy discussions about the bill itself. He just noted that yes, the bill is before us, and that it will be up for debate next week.
One of the things that the opposition said this afternoon in a press release is that they did not receive prior notice, or they didn't receive sufficient time to review the substantive changes to the bill. But my question is, in that debate, or when the minister rose on her feet in the Senate to pilot the bill, did the opposition say at that particular time that there is not enough time for them to review the bill?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sanjay. Thank you very much. You know, Sanjay, I'm going to ask you another question. You last week I tried to start that discussion that, and I heard Mr. Hughes also always saying that this opposition is very lazy, but I'm going to use it a different way. What is happening is that and I'm going to take you back to the raise up here with the ministers then. Julian Robinson rise inside the parliament and said, this is the best thing since sliced bread. When they get the increase, and by the next morning, he must be withdraw. They have a dictator leading them, and whenever time them agree on something, as soon as they go to the dictator, and the dictator disagree with it, them have to pull back. That's not how government run.
It is a challenge that I have, Carl, with the opposition, because it feels as if they're just trying to grab at anything that sticks. And if you're standing on principle with something, yes, Julian Robinson stood and agreed. If you agree with the increase in the salary, when you hear the public outrage, why are you then going to change your position on the matter? The same thing with the Constitutional Reform Committee. They agreed on certain things and then the position changed.
Flip-flop, like a flip-flop slippers. Yeah. Anyhow, I want to ask the USA Embassy at Hope Road that they must call upon Mr. Trump to investigate Jamaica for justice for the last 8 years. And I have a reason why I take you there. For you to have a pin board with people's name on it giving out money that couldn't organize yesterday 1 o'clock, that is something that was organized. And what Miss Jackson did from his organization, I am a politician. You know, I heard a lot of people are trying to go around it, even into group that I'm into, want to try to twist it. There is no twisting here. I am a politician. At November 21st, we always go to the national arena. Do you think Pernell Charles, that is my minister, could have come on Mandela Highway, step out in Pajero, and ask him driver to go and count out some money and give to me to take back to the transport that I am into, to issue it? He would have resign the next morning. And JFA did something that was illegal, that was wrong.
Carl, I have to stop you there. Now. What they suggest is that they gave a stipend to people who had to travel long distances to attend the matter. I cannot condone you suggesting they did something illegal or wrong. All right.
I agree with you. But
so you withdraw that comment.
I will withdraw that.
All right.
I will withdraw it. But if you have to argue, I'm going to take you somewhere else. I know of a policeman girlfriend living to my era. They are a part of us, the Jamaica Labour Party. Sunday evening, I asked the lady up to about 5 minutes before I come on the program that I will come and pick her up and take her to my house to put her on to the show, that she could tell who called her from Jamaica for justice. And offer $1,500 to get into Kingston, and she refused from going.
Well, I can't speak to that at all. So,
and if somebody never tip off George this SBS last night, nobody would have heard nothing about it. For you to organize a demonstration, have to pay people to come there to come and demonstrate against the law of your country. You flop yesterday evening. Jamaica people don't have nothing to do with it, Hold on, partner. A campaign, go on campaign. What you should be asked one of these Monday is to ask the British citizen, do you have an age paper for Jamaica? That's the question you need to ask. You need to ask our leader. Do you have a birth certificate? And do you go to school with Julian Robinson here, Andrew Holness? Anyone of those, Cliff Hughes, those are the questions you need to ask our leader. Do you have a birth certificate for Jamaica?
All right, Carl. All right, Carl. You find a way. You always find a way. I'll leave it to you. All right, Carl. Anthony, good evening.
Hey, Anthony. Good evening. How are you people?
We're good.
Good. Boy, I call ask the question and I want to ask, But let me ask you, let me say something. Something like JFF. A JFF, Daniel?
JFJ.
J, right. We all them popular. I don't think them should have pay people money to come protest.
But hold on, Anthony. It is a standard. It is a norm for individuals. The political parties, they also do it. They reimburse individuals, or they will give them the money up front to maybe cover transportation, to cover meals, because the fact is individuals volunteer to come and do something. The most you can do is provide lunch or maybe provide transportation. What's wrong with that? The political parties do it when they have their conference.
I was going to a political party meeting at the National Arena, and I'm leaving from Montego Bay. No party man no give me no, When me and my virgin them do, we put money together and rent a vehicle and go.
Right, so you may not get it. You may not get it, Anthony, but isn't it as a norm? And if you're in the thick of the politics, you will know that. The political parties, they will provide a bus to the busing individuals. They will give them lunch. Some will get transportation money. You don't know of that?
Yeah, I know about them, the things about them. A politics meeting, this I don't in a halfway tree bus park. I don't mess around.
Yeah, but the point is, no. Yeah, but the point is though, Anthony, they still give individuals, regardless of where it is being held. These individuals decide to come to support the cause of JFJ. What is so wrong with them providing transportation for those individuals to come?
But no. Who for people they will say they come? They will say about 130. Right? 130. They want to say they can't get 130 people at Kingston alone. They can't do that? Come on, man. Another thing, the final thing. This brother that you have on the program that interviews this evening.
Mr. Samuels.
Liar, man. The farmer, not my farmer liar, man. Still liar. Right?
You can retire from practice, but you're always a lawyer once you've earned that degree.
He's a liar, not true?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. Good. I see him belly full, His belly is full. So that's why I can't come and talk all of them things there, What the parliament is there for? Not to set law and all of them stuff there.
Which is where I disagree with Mr. Samuels quite fundamentally, that even if you have an issue with this matter of them setting a mandatory minimum, they have not overstepped in the fact that the parliament is there to set laws. The purpose of the judiciary is to interpret and enforce those laws.
Right. But because I just can't understand him. And where can I know? I see all of them the law already passed. By the way, them pass the law, right?
In the lower house. In the lower house. It still has to go to the Senate.
It has to go to the Senate yet. Correct.
Okay, well, you see me I'm saying? The thing should have more, it should have more terrible, the law should have more tougher, you know. You see, as long as the man dead, that they had the amount of time that somebody started spending in prison, you know.
Anthony,
as long as he's dead, because guess what? He left a car in our heart, you know.
Can I play the devil's advocate for a second with you?
Yes, man, but
what about the point that Bert made that there is the principle of the separation of powers? The judiciary is supposed to be independent, and by you as the legislature restricting them as to how they should go about doing their job, that is somewhat of an interference. How do you square that?
No, let me tell you something. We can just like the taxi men them, we can't let the bus fare up to them. Right? Because then we put it high, while some we have it way down there. So we don't want some of the judges them have it up there so, and some have it down there.
But the difference is that judges don't act on emotions. Judges utilize the law to guide how they rule. So it's a difference when you compare them to the bus drivers.
But it's the law, so give them 50 years, give them the 50 years.
But what he's saying is that you are in essence telling the judge how to rule, and you're not allowing the judge to utilize their experience and the law in and of itself to come to a conclusion or a sentence for that individual. You're telling the judge that, look, you can't go below 50 years. You can't go below 30 years.
Then you're not supposed to have a minimum standard that they can go over or below.
But what Bert is saying is that the law... No, but what he's saying is that the law is already there to guide them. You are now tying their hands to say you cannot go below this, regardless of the mitigating circumstances which may exist in the particular case. Because remember, every case is different. Yeah? So you have to look at the particular case, the mitigating factors to determine the number of years the person should get. But by you now saying this is the lowest you can go, you're already tying the hands of the judges. What if this person is a first-time offender? What if the person
first timer not because if he or she is a first-time timer, he's not supposed to do it none at all. If you prepare to kill a man, prepare for dead feet too. Prepare for it too. Let me tell you something. Just make me a talk, because me have experience, but then kill me son, Then kill him and then go talk about mistaken identity. This thing that can't work, man. If you kill a man as long as the man dead, but you will spend that amount of time in a prison. So if the man not come back to life, being dead in a prison too. I saw me see it. My brethren. And it's hurt. It's hurt. You know what? People out there, man, hurt.
I understand where Mr. Samuels is suggesting that there needs to be a certain level of dispassion on the part of the judges, but the politicians have no such immunity. They have to face the Jamaican electorate, and they have to face the families in the communities that say, where is the justice for my son? Where is the justice for... And they have to set laws on that basis. And in some instant cases, yes, maybe those laws do tie the hands of the judiciary. But that is the role of the legislator.
But Siobhan, isn't that considered interference when we're promoting the principle of separation of justice?
But let me ask you, Sanjay, the savings clause for some constitutional matters, wouldn't that be considered an interference on the judiciary as well? And you know which matters I'm referring to when we have savings clauses.
Yes. I just wanted to show the flip side to it, though.
Come.
All right, thanks, Anthony.
All right, Delroy, good evening.
Hi, Sanjay and Siobhan. Good night. How are you doing?
Doing quite well.
Good, man. I was listening, with the, Damien Crawford. I think by this, everybody's supposed to understand Damien Crawford role, Damien will say a thing, once would say a thing by 10 o'clock, and by 10:30 he has to change it, because Damien, after what him step, you understand? How many the PNP senator was in the Senate Friday?
3.
7, right? Right, and he's the one that what should I say? He's the one that contest with the government side. So yes, I mean they agree with the Rudy, right?
Yes, but I mean, as I said, he is the education spokesman, so I would, of course, expect him to make his contribution, and I would expect his contribution to be the most expansive. But I still found it very curious that no other senator spoke for the opposition side. I believe we had 5 different presentations from the government benches, and only one opposition senator spoke.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That I mean, when he making his speech, he must always be careful, because he know he back the broad as much, because once he make a speech and come out, that's a different thing when I have to face him leader, Do you remember earlier when him said that they was gonna do the I think himself they win, they were gonna do some tax, 1% tax, something like that, and then after that, them saying do it on your own, so him have to take all the punishment. Do you remember that one?
I recall that incident, but I mean, credit to Mr. Crawford. He voices his opinion sometimes to his own detriment.
So let me tell you something. When you see him do that, I understand it's a pressure. It's not a mean he just want to come out and make the speech, but it's a pressure that he must really come out and talk, because that's how they cheat him. You understand? The next thing about it, how long now since JFJ is around?
You'd be able to better answer that question, Sandra, but years.
Mm-hmm.
Go again. 26 years, according to my producer.
Yeah.
Okay, so when Melissa Silvera, they killed Melissa Silvera, they wasn't around at that time.
That is a rhetorical question, of course. Yes, they were.
Okay. That little baby, what the little 9-year-old, 10-year-old baby, I think that is the MP, little baby, then kill and burn. You remember the one I'm talking?
I'm aware, but remember, these are very sensitive matters that are still before the court, so I'm just being cautious in how I respond.
Yeah, but what? This is what I'm going. JFJ now, that is before the court. Yes.
Both matters are still before the courts.
That in here, JFJ didn't come out and don't say nothing about all those killings. How many gun police them find since the start of the year?
A lot. I believe
I think it's 320.
I believe I think it's a record high in terms of gun fines this year.
326, 330 somewhere about there. I didn't hear JFJ then come out and congratulate the police and all those things. Those are things that they're supposed to come out on. So, every policeman and every policewoman on the road who have a family, sometimes in the fall they have to come out and leave their family. Night cold, they have to leave their family. When them go out there and gunmen shoot after them, you never hear no time gunman shoot a police and JFJ they come out and make a speech about it. If a gunman get killed, it's all good because they don't have blood. I can understand these people. The same thing that goes when gunmen shoot after police and police have to defend themselves and they make a mess. This is the same thing that they're supposed to do when gunmen kill a police.
Delroy, I'm going to go side with the DPP in this matter, that sometimes there's a lot of emotion attached to these issues when they're properly ventilated by Indicom and her office in terms of the veracity of the charges brought against those officers that they believe have overstepped their bounds.
And to be fair also to JFJ, Michael Jackson is on record commending the JCF for their outstanding work in achieving a 37% reduction in crime. So we have to be fair also to them.
Because of pressure, because them see people start to pressure them on that. That's why he come back and say that. They didn't say that before. You can never If give the milk and then turn it over and then want to catch it back after I turn over.
Let me ask you, did you hear that interview yesterday with Cliff and Ricardo with Susan Goff, not Susan Goff, Caroline Gooms, the founding executive director of JFJ? You need to go back and listen to it. And you would understand the purpose of JFJ and what they are trying to achieve. Now, I'm not for a second saying their approach is always the right one, but I believe there's a place for Jamaicans for Justice.
The organization exists because we do have a historical context
exactly
of overreach by the state in matters of human rights. It is a, but is that what is going on today is the ultimate question that is being asked, and I believe that matter is best ventilated by Indicom and iProbe and the courts when they have found that officers have overstepped. I believe that at the end of the day is how it should be done. They have raised an issue which I do agree with, that body cameras are not being used appropriately within the JCF. I support this call. I believe it will better help the police when these matters come up to remove even the concern or doubt that they acted inappropriately or appropriately, I should say.
Definitely, and I agree with that, Siobhan.
I have one more to go. I hear the leader of the opposition come out and calling about ombudsman. I think he should stay far from that, The reason why? Remember when he seen one come out and call Bobby Montague little boy?
I remember that.
Right. And the ombudsman did instruct him to go and ask forgiveness, something like that. And up until now, he don't do it. So when he come out and saying that, election coming up now, and they should have a ombudsman because when people overstep, who they gonna talk to? He don't need an ombudsman because he already break the rules, break the law, and he don't follow the law. So he should stay away far from that.
Delroy, when you say, the minute you become a member of either houses of parliament, you're inflicted with this disease called very short memory. And sometimes it prevents you from looking back in hindsight and looking into the past and say, wait, I may have said something that was contradictory.
It's not short memory. You just think he's higher than the little boy. That's the problem. Because he's a big man and Bobby Montague is a little boy, so it's very hard for him to bow down and say, I'm sorry. You understand? Because if he now called him for ombudsman and them go there and do the same thing, he's not going to bow and say sorry to nobody because he's a way above. He's in heaven and he's in heaven and
all right, Delroy, sorry, I forgot you because my producers give me the evil eye. Out of time, very past out of time. And thank you all for joining us this evening, both on YouTube and in those in Radio Land. Thank you, Marigold Weber, Philip Jackson, Killian Henry, Curry B, Yvonne Guthrie, Mikkel, Marlene P, all of you, thank you so much. Thanks to our super producer, Dana Davey, our technical operator, Andrew the Glenn Boogs Anderson, and our very capable news and production department led by the even more so capable Cara Powell. Thank you all for joining us. I'm Siobhan Campbell.
And my name is Sanjay Lewis, wishing for you a wonderful evening.